Hey guys, I'm trying a Sarada-centric story since this is really good, so let me know in the comments if I should continue. This is what if Sarada went back in time and met Team 7. Team 7 is sent on a mission to investigate a disturbance outside of the village, where they encounter an unconscious girl in a crater. The mysterious Sarada insists she's a shinobi from the Hidden Leaf trying to rescue her teammates. When the team discovers she possesses a Sharingan, things become even more unbelievable. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 1 Prologue. When she wakes, a bone-crunching, joint-burning agony radiates up from her right hand and arm through her entire body. Her pores sting, and her scalp blisters as if ablaze. Panic threatens to overtake the physical discomfort. Why was she unconscious? Where is she? Where are Boruto and Mitsuki and Kinomaru-sensei? The last thing she remembers is howling wind, stomach in knots, ground rushing up towards her faster and faster, and agony. Sound filters back to her now, rendering the deafening silence she didn't notice earlier into a sudden cacophony of noise, and it helps her realize the second thing. She's not alone. Silhouettes loom over her, indistinct shapes and blurred colors, pink and orange and blue and white. Enemies? She needs to get back on her feet. She can't let strangers take her. The mission may be a failure, and she may have lost her teammates, but she will not let the enemy take her. Sarada Uchiha will not disgrace Konoha or her family name. But when she goes to move, she can't even make her fingers twitch. One of her eyes has swollen shut and feels sticky, as if it's covered in a liquid substance that hasn't dried yet. The other eye is blurry from tears, making the world around her impossible to interpret. Her glasses are missing. She's sensei waking. Her hearing fades in and out of focus, but one thing resonates to the depths of her marrow. This voice she knows. That alone fills her with hope and resolve, and she struggles to make out the faces looming above her. Mama? Papa? The uncertainty of unconsciousness has her reverting to the most basic of names, the words that speak of safety. Uncle? The distorted figures move closer now, leaning over and blocking the sun she didn't even realize was obscuring her view. She delirious? No doubt a concussion, not a surprise fall from that height. Hey, look what I found. An exuberant shout fills the air, setting Sarada's teeth on edge. Noise is evil. Noise is horrible, and she wishes a vicious death upon the moron that's yelling. Can't believe they survived. Gentle fingers mop the stickiness from her eyes. She winces as they prod a bruise by accident, and then senses something settled on the bridge of her nose. Glasses, though cracked and bent, with one rim digging into her cheekbone. The familiar weight of them brings her slight comfort because her world makes sense again, at least in increments. Shapes coalesce into bodies and faces. Details emerge that she can now see without calling upon her Sharingan. She blinks once, the movement uncomfortable, and then thrice more in quick succession to make sure what she's seeing is real. Disbelief barrels into her with the force of an explosive tag. She knows these faces, but the last time she saw them arranged in this fashion, they gazed up at her from behind the glass pane of a photograph taken 10 years before her birth. Sarada Uchiha stares up at the youthful figures of her parents and two Hokage of Konoha. She's either unconscious or she's dead. Either way, her day has just gotten much more complicated. Chapter 1. This is such bull. Why does he keep giving us such lame missions? Sarada does not correct her teammate, knowing it will fall on deaf ears. As usual, the blonde, bewhiskered boy is complaining about something. Boruto has two settings: arrogant and obnoxious, and today he is both engaged. It's enough to disturb the local wildlife. Several birds take flight from nearby bushes, and a few squirrels running across the forest-lined path that stretches out ahead of Team Kinomaru. I doubt it was only us, Mitsuki remarks, voice mild and pale face pulled into a thoughtful expression. He often accords rhetorical questions the same consideration as legitimate ones. And besides, it was Miss Suka who gave us the mission. Well, yeah, but you know it came from my dad, Boruto grumbles. I bet it's just some stupid kids playing pranks. So, what if it is? Konohamaru interrupts, adopting a stern expression. A mission's a mission, hey? Not everything you do as a ninja needs to be an excuse to use a Rasengan. Shows what you know. I bet it's a bunch of jerk teenagers. And if it is, I'll lay a smackdown on them. Believe it. Right, Mitsuki? The pale boy gives a shrug of bemused agreement, while Konohamaru pinches the bridge of his nose. Sarada sighs. Even on a good day, it's a challenge to be the only girl on her squad, surrounded by three boys that each have their own idiosyncrasies. Despite being their Jonin instructor, Konohamaru lacks basic common sense and can't keep up a serious demeanor for more than a few minutes. Boruto is loud and arrogant, an annoyance to her by mere existence. And Mitsuki, well, he's just weird. I doubt there will be any kind of smackdown. The golden-eyed boy reflects, thoughtful. I suspect we'll discover another cat. He's got a point, Sarada agrees. I doubt we'll get anything better than C-rank missions for a while. It's only been a few weeks since the attack on the village, and there's a backlog of mission work. The other Genin quads are just as bogged down with chore-like missions, since all the higher-level teams are engaged in more important work. Yeah, I heard all about it. I was there, remember? Boruto complains. But you'd think the old man would at least have something in reserve for us. With a new Team 7, would it kill him to treat us like it? Shikadai and his squad get all kinds of training and missions from their dads. I don't see why he couldn't tell Miss Suka to save a few flashy missions for us to do. You aren't hoping for favoritism from your dad, are you? Konohamaru asks. Because you saw for yourself during the exams, that won't happen. He frowns at the blue-eyed youth, who has the decency to look ashamed. Out of everyone who learned of Boruto's cheating during the Chunin exams, Konohamaru took it the hardest. In his eyes, he didn't impart the basic lessons of honor and tradition in his student, which he considers a major failure. Even if the boy's father weren't Hokage, he is still the man Konohamaru idolized since childhood. He feels more responsibility toward Boruto than he does for Mitsuki or Sarada. He's always been like it too. The Jonin continues. When I was a kid, everyone considered me special and spoiled me because I'm the grandson of the third Hokage. But your father treated me like I was anyone else. And I was better for it because, yeah, you became a badass, Boruto dismissed, stretching his arms above his head. Come on, let's hurry and get to where we're going before you take another trip down memory lane. With dinosaurs this time, he pulls ahead of the group, and after a moment Mitsuki follows him. Konohamaru deflates. Another supreme teaching moment wasted. Sarada shakes her head in resignation. She can't picture Lord Seventh ever behaving toward his Jonin instructor the way Boruto does with theirs. But then again, Konohamaru has known Boruto longer than he's been their squad leader. And Lord Sixth is much less dramatic than Konohamaru. His calm demeanor is much more suited to a leadership position. She wonders how he might have reacted to Boruto's or even Konohamaru's irreverent natures if they were his students. It's exhausting just being in the same breathing space as them sometimes, in particular because she's the only one who seems bothered by it. Mitsuki weathers it with ease, but he has a preternatural quantity of patience that Sarada finds enviable and creepy at the same time. Of the three members of Team 7, he has been the calmest about Boruto's cheating debacle. I don't consider it unprincipled, he explained when she asked him about it. In combat circumstances, a ninja must use whatever tools are necessary to carry out his mission. I would have done the same in the arena if that man with the hook hadn't absorbed my chakra. She can see his point, though it troubles her. Because ninja must follow the laws, or else there wouldn't be any peace between us. Harsh consequences exist for those who break the law, which Boruto learned for himself. His cheating affected all of the exam results, calling into question not only his teammates' results, but his opponents' too. Even though the Kage canceled the exams, Sarada suspects they would have I validate her team's results despite the alien attack. It will be a long time before we get promoted after this. At least one good thing has come from the incident. Boruto's attitude has transformed. He is better focused on their missions and dedicated to doing his best instead of spending the least amount of effort or looking for the easiest shortcut. More than that, his willingness to work with and rely on his teammates has become his default instead of something he tries only when everything else runs out. She studies him as Konohamaru catches up to him, lecture at the ready, and sighs again. His recent experience helping to save Konoha may have prompted an epiphany about his ninja way, but Sarada still thinks he's a moron. She can't understand how someone as amazing as the 7th Hokage ended up with such a loud-mouthed, arrogant son. It's even more unbelievable considering how adorable Himawari is, or Aunt Hinata's persistent serenity. Being the child of an absent father could be a factor. She supposes if Papa had never left the village but spent his life too busy to spend time with her, she might behave the same as Boruto. Maybe. She's not sure. Mama is not as tolerant as Aunt Hinata, and she schooled any tendency Sarada might have had towards entitlement out of her from a young age. Grandma Mabuki and Grandpa Kizashi wouldn't tolerate such a thing. Though they always spoil her when she visits, they were also adamant she grow up respectful of others. And her father, well, she can't imagine the person she might have been if Papa had been there during her childhood. And on that note, even when he's home, it's super awkward, she thinks. She thinks back to the cringeworthy nickname he gave her on one of his visits before the exams. He'd shown her how to use Katan afterward to make up for it, But an underlying strangeness had tinged the whole visit. Around her father, Sarada always feels like she's waiting for the other shoe to drop, for something to break the fragile amity between them. And by the time that feeling goes away, he always has to leave. It's frustrating that Papa spends his free time training Boruto, even though he asked her permission first, suggests that he is just as unsure around her after so long. Discussions with Mama never help. They've been butting heads more often of late, over matters Sarada had thought long since laid to rest. For example, glossing over the truth, or telling stories that are so vague Sarada might interpret them a million different ways. Despite growing up on tales of the legendary Team 7 and the Fourth Great Shinobi War, in recent years Sarada has realized she might not have the important details. She didn't even notice it much until she went looking for her father. Although Mama talks a lot, and she can talk for days, her talent for not giving up important information to Sarada, anyhow, rivals Papa's. It's not as if she's asking for official secrets either. She only wants to find out what they were like before having her. When they were normal, not living a long-distance relationship. Or even before that, back when they were kids her age. Sarada has heard things from Grandma and Grandpa, but their stories ring with the bias of parents. Sarada has been a ninja long enough to understand the people who know one's truest self are one's teammates. The problem with that is that Lord Seventh exaggerates everything, so his words on the matter aren't the most trustworthy. Uncle Sai didn't meet her parents until later in life. Even when she questions him, he insists she ask her parents because all the books say communication between parent and child is integral to a healthy relationship. Lord Sixth is a master at distracting her or changing the topic, and all Annie Ino will talk about is hers and Mama's rivalry over Papa. Which you? Sarada has tried asking her parents again, but Papa responds with clipped answers, when he responds at all, while Mama rambles about everything except what Sarada wants to learn. It's annoying, and whenever Sarada calls them on it, she triggers her father's brooding and her mother's temper. Then Papa has to calm Mama before she breaks another house, and the matter gets buried until the next time Sarada asks questions. And the cycle continues. Even though she knows her parents love her and each other, Sarada has a keen awareness that her family life is atypical. She wishes it was easier to spend time with them, and longs for the blurry, distant memories, perhaps only dreams, she has of happier times together. All right, this is the spot marked on the GPS, Kanomaru announces, pulling Sarada out of her thoughts. Time to get down to business. He scans the long stretch of road. It is as innocuous as most roads that lead to Konoha, albeit less well-paved. Based on the preliminary mission information, this place is where the most frequent so-called hauntings have occurred. I guess it's too much to hope that the ghost will just show up. Huh? Boruto says, the last time there was a ghost involved in anything around here, its appearances weren't random, Mitsuki remarks. The comment makes no sense to Sarada, but it earns a warning glare from Boruto and a dark look from Kanomaru. Mitsuki doesn't appear to notice either, instead continuing in blithe obliviousness. We should wait until nightfall. If it is a true ghost, isn't that when they appear according to tradition? Kanomaru shakes his head. No. The mission specs show the sightings occur at all hours of the day. Too bad we don't have a Byakugan on our squad. We could watch this whole area with no problem, Sarada muses. This time, she's the one on the receiving end of Boruto's glare. What's that supposed to mean? She supposes he's still touchy that he hasn't developed one. I only meant this mission seems more geared towards someone who can see through stuff. Sarada has a point. Boruto, Mitsuki points out. Are you sure it's not possible to? Boruto laughs with exaggerated loudness, shoving him with his elbow. You guys are way overthinking this. It will end up being a cat, believe it. Sarada narrows her eyes in suspicion. But before she can ask, their instructor claps his hands together once to signal for silence. All right, guys. Everyone has their communication devices charged. We need to split up. Mitsuki and Boruto go left. Sarada, you and I go right. Sounds like big bro Kanomaru thinks you need protecting, Boruto mocks. Call me Kanomaru-sensei. Don't be an idiot, Sarada sniffs. This is a survey, which means we need top observational skills. I've got the Sharingan, and Mitsuki has better eyes than you. Huh. Shows what you know. And what's that supposed to mean? I'm not telling. Boruto sticks his tongue out at her. Kanomaru scratches his temple, thoughtful. Sarada has a good idea, and it would cut down me having to listen to your bickering. Sarada's right eye twitches. Try listening to it if I knock you across the road. Shinaro. But even as she cracks her knuckles, it occurs to her that walloping her teacher might be an ill-conceived idea. Instead, she clenches her teeth and whirls around, heading in the suggested direction. The sound of Boruto's sniggering follows her. After imparting his final instructions to the others, Konohamaru catches up, and by that time her temper has cooled. They divide themselves further, each walking on opposite sides of the thoroughfare and darting every so often into the surrounding forest. Sarada examines her side of the road, trying to find any indications of teenagers or cats, but finds nothing. There's a sensation, though, that makes the hair on the back of her neck stand on edge. Wherever they walk, the sensation follows, and she thinks there may be chakra surrounding them, except it's too indistinct, as if it's coming from far away. She relays her findings to the squad via their comlinks. That would explain it. Mitsuki's voice crackles across the channel. I may not see what you're seeing, but there's something here. The air tastes odd. Has anyone ever told you how gross it is you do that? Boruto's voice sounds muffled, as if he's holding his hand over the microphone. And that strange energy signature lasts up to 3/4 of a kilometer from where we started to the end of the road. Then it disappears. Same here, Sarada says. She and Konohamaru have reached the end of the road where the map marks the furthest known ghost sighting. The hair-raising sensation comes to an abrupt stop, only to reassert itself once they turn and head back. If that chakra signature is the same thing Sarada senses, we could be in some kind of giant bubble, Konohamaru muses. That means the Byakugan you wanted would be useless anyway, Boruto points out. Grandpa Hayashi says sometimes barriers skew the perception, even if they're not solid. Well, this one's not solid, whatever it is. Nothing's out of place. So far, Konohamaru says. We'll check the surrounding forest. That'll take a while, Sarada complains. We don't have enough people for an effective grid search. She stops talking as the world flickers. It's only a moment, a glimmer in her peripheral vision. But something. What is it? Konohamaru asks. I don't know. Give me a second. Sarada closes her eyes, concentrates, and wills her Sharingan to the surface. She has avoided using it to its full extent until now, since that always drains her energy. After the misadventure where she awakened the ability, she slept for a full day afterward. She remembers being livid because she missed a whole day of Papa being home before he departed again on his mission. It's like any other part of the body and needs training before you can use it to its full potential, he explained after she woke. Then he taught her exercises, such as calling up the ability to the point before manifestation when she needs to sharpen her eyesight. With practice, you will have the strength to keep it active over longer intervals. She is nowhere near that level yet. That's why she needs the full Sharingan now. Her eyes open, and a much sharper, more detailed view of her surroundings snaps into focus. She frowns in concentration. For a few seconds, she sees nothing different, but the longer she stares, the more she notices a gritty texture to the surrounding air. It reminds her of the grainy, rice-like static of a malfunctioning television screen. There's something here. No question of that, she says, rotating on the spot in a slow circle, trying to see how far the disturbance goes. I can't think of how to describe it, but she trails off as she finds herself once more facing Konohamaru. He isn't alone. Behind him, not a meter away, a family of deer are grazing. They are unbothered by Sarada and Konohamaru, which she notes is not typical deer behavior. What do you see? Her sensei asks, noting her surprised silence. Sarada doesn't answer right away and instead pushes her glasses up on her forehead. She covers her right eye, and after a moment of concentration, the vision on that side of her face returns to normal. Manifesting the Sharingan in only one eye is another technique her father showed her on his most recent visit home. It's difficult to do, but it helps strengthen the ocular muscles. As she moves her hand away, it gives her a chance to take in the scene from 2 points of view. From one perspective, Konohamaru stares at her in confusion. In the other, a baby deer flits forward without concern. This will sound strange, but it's sort of like I'm looking at 2 different scenes, Sarada says at last, frowning at the muddled double vision. This one, and another one. Tell me about them, Konohamaru orders, tension lacing his voice. Given the last time there was an incident involving an alternate dimension, Sarada understands his concern. As she describes what she sees, other details become noticeable. The ill-paved road they walk on is little more than a dirt track running through the forest when viewed with her Sharingan. The trees lining that road appear smaller and less full-bodied than the ones behind Sarada. Most of the grass and bushes are soaking wet, as though recovering from a recent rain shower. That's odd, considering the Fire Country has been experiencing a minor drought this summer, and it hasn't rained in a month. But there's nothing else noticed, right? Konohamaru asks. There's no dimensional portal or doorway. Anything like that? What does that even look like? Trust me, you would have no trouble recognizing it. Okay. She trails off, frowning in thought. Should I check? We'll do a sweep while returning to our starting point. Don't keep the Sharingan activated too long, or you'll drain yourself. If there are any threats, you need to be at your best. Did you guys get that? Her instructor barks into his comm link. Head back to the rendezvous point. There's no use straining for what you can't see. Got it. The boys chorus across the crackling channel. Konohamaru and Sarada start back too, moving through the exact space where the deer are still grazing. While Sarada can't help skirting them, not being able to perceive them means Konohamaru walks through them as if they are ghosts. An idea occurs to her. This is why people have been reporting hauntings, she realizes out loud. They get glimmers of whatever is going on and think it's ghosts. I mean, what else would it be if you see a solid person or an animal 1 second and then it's gone? And they can't see it for an extended period, like you can because of your Kekkai Genkai. Konohamaru agrees. Why is that? It may have to do with one of the evolved abilities of the Sharingan. Konohamaru muses. Dimension crossing, space-time ninjutsu, something like that. So, I can't travel through this dimension, but I can see it? Looks like no one's had a means of testing that before. Whatever's going on, I don't like it. Dizzy, Sarada deactivates the Sharingan until the scene reverts to her and Konohamaru walking alone. Are we going back to Konoha? She asks. Might be a good idea. If there's something going on with different dimensions, we need your father in on it, since he's still home right now. And not that I want to bother him unless it's necessary. In a smaller voice he mutters. He grew up to be even scarier than he used to be. What? Nothing. Come on, let's go. I've had a letter from Nikoba. Tsunade informs them, shuffling through her papers. She peers over her desk at the members of Kakashi's squad. She says the task she commissioned you for was a success. Damn, right, it was a success. The squad member closest to her boasts, grinning and rubbing at his nose. You sent me on it, didn't you? Don't pretend you had anything to do with it. Naruto, his pink-haired teammate, scolds. Sasuke is the one that did the hard work. You got us caught before we even started. The dark-haired boy snorts, either in agreement or derision, and crosses his arms. Ah, come on, Sakura. If it weren't for me getting caught, you two wouldn't have gotten into the city. And if I hadn't shown up, that giant mutant fur ball would have crushed. That's enough. Naruto, the final member of the squad, interrupts. He leans against the door of the office while the kids make their report, listening with keen attention despite the orange book in hand. For someone who's begging for another mission, you're not making a good case for yourself. Thank you, Kakashi Tsunade says. But even if the kid's running his mouth, I don't have a choice. Naruto's expression brightens. We're short-staffed this week. That okay. Lady Tsunade, we're so ready. Sakura declares, hands clasped. Ever since the 5th Hokage healed the damage to Sasuke and Kakashi's minds, she's held a deep reverence and gratitude toward the woman. The forest rangers in the southern woods need help. The tree nurseries are being damaged by a pack of wild boars, Tsunade says, reading off one paper while taking another from Shizen. And there's an appeal from the academy for a Genin squad to oversee an emergency drill for the newest students. Her assistant hands her another paper. This one is to track a lost cat. No. Naruto interrupts. No way. No. We're done with cats. The last job was the mother of all cat missions, and we're so not doing another one. His voice takes on a plaintive whine. Come on, Granny, you've got to give us something better. I have to do nothing of the sort, Brad. And if you don't watch your tone, I'll assign you cat missions for the rest of your miserable life. You can't do that. That's an abuse of power. I'm the Hokage. I can do whatever I want. That's not a great argument, my law. Shizen begins, but Naruto drowns out her quiet interjection. Yeah, well, you won't be Hokage long. And when I take over, I'll send you on stupid missions. I bet you'll love returning the same damn cat over and over again. Naruto, stop talking back to the Hokage. Whack! Ow! Sakura, Sasuke sighs. As usual, he's surrounded by incompetence. Although the useless idiot has a point. While he isn't as vocal as his teammate, he agrees with Naruto's assessment. What is the point of sending them on lame chore missions when the Hokage and most of the village has seen what they can do? It's an insult to his skills. Even Sakura's above this by now, he admits, watching as the only girl on the squad pummels Naruto with exaggerated anger. Are you two done? Tsunade growls. The pig sitting on her desk oinks in disapproval. Sakura and Naruto separate right away, the former blushing in embarrassment, the latter trying to shake the stars from his eyes. There's a final choice for you if you're ready to leave right away, the Hokage continues. But it's a strange one. The Genin perk up in silent expectation. We've received a few rumors coming from Konoha's outskirts. There isn't enough information, and the village can't spare any higher-level squads to investigate. We'll take it. The whiskered boy crows. Kakashi sighs. Naruto, you don't get to accept which missions we do. That's my job. You haven't even heard what we're supposed to do yet, Sakura adds, unable to disguise the petulant note in her voice. Who cares? If we don't know what we're getting into, That means it might end up being interesting, or it could be nothing. There's no question it's something. Tsunade steps in, annoyed scowl growing more pronounced. Travelers to the village speak of an odd bubble, I guess we might call it. It's half a day's journey from here. Jinjutsu? Kakashi wants to know. It doesn't appear to be. Most witnesses describe it as transparent and made up of strange chakra. Strange how? So far no one can explain it. It doesn't appear harmful to the people seeing it or the surrounding wildlife, but we need more information before we can investigate inside. I received news this morning that the squad of surveyors assigned to the preliminary search can't sense danger. That doesn't mean very much, as they said the chakra is obscuring their visual acuity. I assume you sent a Hyuga? 3. Takuma, Niji, and Hinata. They report the same thing. If we can't get a clearer picture of what's inside, we need to know more about the bubble itself before we go in. It's a safe bet that our 2 Sharingan users should inspect it too. Sasuke doesn't look up at this, but his mouth tilts somewhat upward. He is eager for another chance to prove his skills, given the tame nature of their recent missions. If they need a Sharingan, it means he will get to practice more. Kakashi is the only one who notices the change, and his mouth firms beneath his mask. Beyond their teacher-student relationship, there has always been a unique bond and camaraderie between Kakashi and remaining Uchiha prodigy. Sasuke considers him to be a mentor, at least in certain areas. Meanwhile, Kakashi tries to act as a role model, the way Minato was for him. He sees much of himself in Sasuke, and hence why it worries him to see the boy trying to pull away from him and the rest of his squad. While it's a foregone eventuality that teenagers set up boundaries as they grow up, most aren't the sole survivors of an entire family massacre. Sasuke puts up emotional walls with the same ease as breathing, and Kakashi is reluctant to let that go without question. He knows in Sasuke's mind he isn't getting any stronger, though Kakashi would argue different. The boy is a very different person than he was when first assigned to his Genin squad, and again from who he was during the exams. He has grown to depend on and rely on his teammates in a way he has not relied on anyone since he was a child. And while anyone else might take that as a sign of maturity and development, Kakashi knows Sasuke sees it as a weakness. The problem with the Uchiha is that they measure strength by ability, not emotional growth. And considering Naruto is gaining strength by obvious leaps and bounds, Sasuke imagines he's failing. Hence the constant sense of unease, which causes Kakashi his own frustration. Of late, he's been scratching his head about how he can best help his students, and so far has come up with nothing. Everyone feels as if they've reached a plateau, and without another exam for several months, missions are the only way to counteract that. Even Sakura has seemed like she's just going through the motions of late. Kakashi doesn't always know what to do with the female member of his squad. Having been a boy once, he knows how they think and react to things. It is more problematic trying to relate to this girl. He's been working off what he remembers of Rin, which works well enough most of the time, but other times, well, Sakura can be a lot scarier than Rin, who only ever lost her composure if he and Obito did something stupid or reckless. Rin was more like him, in that she excelled at reacting to obstacles in her immediate path and dealing with challenges as they came at her. She could compartmentalize her feelings and not think about them until a later moment. It's how she got through the loss of Obito. Sakura may have analytic intelligence that would rival Shikamaru Nara's, but her emotions still creep into every facet of her decision-making. A part of him thinks if she ever learns to turn off those emotions, she will be terrifying. It's why he has hesitated to train her in such methods. There is a fine line between helping her and screwing her up. So far, he's adopted a policy of leaving her to her own devices during training, but he won't be able to do that forever. And then there's Naruto, who was born impatient. If Tsunade can't find a decent mission to occupy his students, Kakashi might have to arrange an emergency drill or something just to ease the tension. Your mission would be to map the bubble in its entirety, Tsunade continues. Study everything of importance and come up with a final assessment of the danger. Return with a report as soon as possible. Once we compare it to the first group's findings, we can send people into the phenomenon. That sounds as lame as chores, Naruto complains. Just go stare at a bubble? Nothing else? If you don't want the mission, there's still the cat retrieval. Come on, guys, let's get going. And we can get a Chiraka ramen before we head out. He's out of the office, so fast the floor has skid marks. Kakashi exhales in acceptance. I guess we're taking on this one. Sasuke walks from the room in his usual slouch, hands in his pockets. Kakashi takes the mission scroll from Shizun and follows. Sakura pauses by the door once her teammates leave, lingering in uncertainty for a moment. Somehow, when they leave, all the air seems to rush back into the room. She doesn't know if that's because they have such contrasting personalities, or because they're boys? Maybe a little of both? Being the only kunoichi on the squad is lonely. Sakura sometimes wishes she had another girl on her squad with whom she could commiserate. She misses Ino at moments like this because they were the same as Naruto and Sasuke. They pushed each other. Then again, she wouldn't want Ino here right now because they'd be competing over Sasuke. Sakura makes a face, deciding that if such a change to the squad roster ever happened, it would need to include a girl who didn't like Sasuke, which would be impossible because every girl she ever met has liked him, except maybe Hinata. I'm pretty sure she has a crush on Naruto of all people. She can hear the latter out in the hallway, pestering the others to treat him to lunch. Sasuke says something caustic, which angers Naruto, and their sensei interjects with the bored ease of someone who has done so 100 times. It isn't surprising, considering Kakashi spends most of his time arbitrating the rivalry between the two boys. It's more attention than he gives Sakura, but she supposes that's normal. Her teammates will become great ninjas one day, despite the rut they both complain about being stuck in right now. It's a sentiment she can empathize with, even if there's nothing to suggest her future will be anywhere near as interesting. Sakura can't blame Kakashi for not wasting his time helping her. She is the weakest member of their group, with a near-permanent need of protection. Although she works hard, she knows she will never become half as great as Sasuke or Naruto. The idea has been bothering her since the attack on Konoha. In recent days, she toyed with asking Tsunade to train her. The legendary Sannin is the strongest kunoichi in the world. She might have tips to help a fellow woman improve herself. Only Sakura witnesses as Shizen adopts a wheedling tone and slides another stack across the overburdened desk. Tsunade glowers at the papers as though willing them to burst into flames and cracks her knuckles. Only she's way intimidating. Sakura? She jumps and glances up to see Kakashi poke his head back into the office. Are you coming? Oh, right. Yes, sorry. She casts one last glance at the fifth Hokage and hurries after the others. She'll ask when they get back. This will be so boring. Naruto complains as they walk together, arms crossed behind his head and a scowl on his face. What's the point of just mapping stuff? It'd make much more sense to snoop around ourselves. Then Granny can skip sending another squad later, you know? Unless whatever we're investigating ends up being made of chakra that disintegrates flesh or something, Sakura points out. Naruto sniggers. Easy way to find out. Let's push Sasuke through. How? It's not Sakura's hand that whips out and knocks him across the back of the head this time, but Sasuke's elbow. If you don't want to follow the mission, you can always stay behind, Kakashi remarks in a mild tone. Tsunade mentioned needing the Sharingan, so a full squad might not be the best idea. From a technical standpoint, we only need me and Sasuke. He pauses with deliberateness and then adds, and Sakura. She's observant and can throw off Jinjutsu better than either of you two. Naruto splutters, but Sakura beams at this. If Kakashi assigns her and Sasuke a job together, she is so not complaining. It's no secret she's besotted with the Uchiha boy, but her teammates don't know what she does, that what she feels is real. Sakura only needs to try hard enough, and he'll return her feelings one day. This mission together presents the perfect opportunity. Did you hear, Sasuke? It'll be great to spend time with just us. Kakashi wants to point out the obvious flaw in that logic, but refrains. It has done no good so far, and if the mission is a bust, you and I can spar together. She cheers, glomming onto his arm. Sakura, get off me. I've been training hard on my own, you'll see. Then stop annoying me and spend more time on that. He tries to pry himself away. If you worked more on getting stronger and less on stuff that won't even matter until we're older. Sakura gasps in delight. Until we're older? A steely glint of triumph enters her eyes, and she squeezes him tighter. If he wants to wait until we're older, it means he might feel the same. Shinaro. Sasuke goes pale as he realizes he's given her an opening and is quick to backtrack. No, I can focus better. Just watch me. Just promise me you meant what you said. Okay, Sasuke, you're choking me. Hey, asshole, get away from Sakura. Naruto yells, materializing a clone in between the two to split them apart. Sasuke jumps away from his teammates right away, his expression sour. Get your stupid face out of mine before you end up kissing me again. Naruto goes beet red and snaps, I never kissed you. You kissed me, you pervert. Again? Sakura echoes, her eye twitching. She reaches out and grabs the clone by the throat, causing it to burst and disappear. Kakashi winces, no doubt expecting a brawl between the three. Perhaps it is best if only Sasuke and me go. You are not leaving me behind again to do extra super secret training with this jerk. Naruto orders, swinging around to point a finger at Kakashi. I finish missions as good as he can. Even better. Believe it. Then stop complaining and let's get going, Kakashi tells him. You're wasting everyone's time. If it turns out to be as easy a mission as expected, we can do other training exercises along the way. Naruto's anger fades in an instant, and he's nothing but smiles again. Even Sasuke looks mollified. Besides, Kakashi continues with a would-be innocent air. Should the bubble prove to be a credible danger to the village, it may need further examination. But your Jonin leader will make that judgment call, not you. The kids stare at him in momentary confusion before breaking into knowing smirks. Their sensei is as opposed to boring missions as they are. Chapter 2. I can't sense anything definitive, Mitsuki says once the team assembles at the rendezvous point. There's a strange chakra cloaking the entire area. It's misdirecting my senses. He makes a face. It has an unpleasant, dizzying effect. Good to know, Konohamaru says. The more information we have before we head back to the city, the better. He rubs his chin in thought. First, we need a more accurate picture of how large this is. What kind of area it's covering. We should have stayed split up then, Boruto points out. We could have at least followed the whatever all the way around until we met up again. No, there's too much of a chance something could go wrong. We need to be able to see the edge better, which means we need all Sarada and Mitsuki's concentration. You and I will act as their support while they search. It's an elementary tactic Sarada reflects. One never knows if an enemy might materialize while in the middle of scouting. Even relying on her and Mitsuki's abilities, it's smarter to have someone watching their back, and she says so. More like someone to hold you if you pass out, Boruto jokes. In which case, I brought ammonia inhalants, Mitsuki announces. He says it as if this is a commonplace thing, and Sarada snorts, half amused and half unsure. They have been on the same team for a while now, but Mitsuki retains that unknowable quirkiness she can't figure out. Other than how devoted he is to Boruto, he remains as much a mystery to her as he was when he first arrived in Konoha. Sarada has a suspicion, a flickering, half-formed notion at the back of her mind. But she is not like Boruto. She does not worry away at every loose thread until it unravels the mystery. People sometimes have matters they don't want to discuss with others, and she understands that better than most. And he's not saying what I think he's not saying. I can understand why he'd want to keep it a secret. All right, we'll do this fast and in formation. Sarada and Mitsuki, you're at the front. Boruto, you follow, and I'll take up the rear. Sarada, don't exhaust your Sharingan. Use it only to confirm Mitsuki's findings. We don't know how big this thing is, and I don't want you tiring yourself out before we make the full circuit. Got it. They set off at once, flitting through the trees. Sarada and Mitsuki skirt the edge of the barrier, weaving in and out of the invisible line to make sure they are still tracking it. Konohamaru makes notes at various landmarks, muttering them aloud as he does. He will add them to the GPS later. Boruto mutters under his breath over getting the boring job, but keeps an eye out for anything the others don't notice. As directed, they rely on Mitsuki's sensory capabilities most of the time. Only when the strange chakra interferes with his sense of direction does Sarada take over, activating her Sharingan to survey the area for the telltale grainy luster. Once Mitsuki recovers himself, they switch back. It's almost completely round, Boruto says when they take a short break at the halfway point, 1.5 kilometers across the valley. The sun has reached its highest point, meaning they need to hasten the survey and head home if they want to reach the city before dark. Almost, but not, Konohamaru replies. He considers his notes. Based on the coordinates we have here and here, he points out 2 spots on his rough map. The halfway point should be 1/4 kilometer away from us. So, either this thing is more elliptical than round, or it's growing, Sarada realizes. Right. Sarada does a few calculations of her own in her head and looks up in alarm. That means whatever this is might reach the city in as little as 2 or 3 days. Konohamaru's expression becomes grim. Come on, we need to move. After that, their search is more hurried. Although Mitsuki and Sarada continue to focus on mapping the growing phenomenon, they investigate less often and in a much more cursory fashion. Not for the first time, Sarada wishes that Konoha sanctioned mobile phones on away missions, but the technology isn't there yet. At the 3/4 point, they hit a snag. The strange occurrence continues to stretch ahead of them, but leads out over the edge of a cliff. Should we follow it down? Mitsuki asks, peeking over the precipice. The drop into the valley below is significant. Or cut across until it curves back. We already know it's growing, Konohamaru replies. It'd be a waste of time to walk down only to come back up again. I'm sure if we cut across, we'll be outside the bubble at some point. Besides, I think we might want to look at that, Sarada says, pointing away from the cliff. There's a rundown, half-collapsed hovel nestled into the mountainside, several hundred meters away. It's near invisible beneath trees and debris, roof caved in and walls crumbling. Any other day, Sarada might ignore it as a forestry station or hunting shack. Except the Jinjutsu cloaks the whole structure. Look at what? Boruto asks, squinting in the same direction. Sarada sighs, forms a hand seal, and mutters Kai. The whole expanse shimmers. Now, instead of a broken-down hut, a circular, solid building manifests out of the ground. It's haphazardly covered with leaves and brush, but it's too large to be a natural animal burrow or hunter's trap. What is it? Boruto asks. It looks like somewhere I once saw with my dad, Sarada says. Lord Seventh said it was one of his old associates from before the war. She hesitates, not sure if she should say anymore because that trip is still technically classified. She's not sure if Orochimaru is a topic she should discuss even with her teammates. After the mission, she read up on him, and discovered a significant amount of notoriety attached to the name. Even with what she suspects about her teammate, she would hesitate to speak of it. But Konohamaru's eyes narrow, and he murmurs, Orochimaru. There is a very distinct chakra here, Mitsuki says in an easy tone. That would be a matter of course for a legendary Sannin. A what? Boruto asks. Do you read anything other than comic books? Sarada lectures. Orochimaru is one of Konoha's Sannin. So is Lady Fifth, and the man who taught Lord Seventh to use the Rasengan. Oh yeah? Boruto scratches his chin. Grandpa Pervy Sage. A vein pulses in Sarada's temple. You can't call a legendary Sannin that. Why not? Just because he was a legend doesn't mean he wasn't a pervert. He wrote that whole series that old man Kakashi reads. Call him Lord Sixth. Orochimaru has not lived here in some time, Mitsuki tells Konohamaru, ignoring the bickering. The signature is faint. It has been years. And why use a paltry jinjutsu like this one? A Sannin would have no need of such a thing. Yeah, anyone who trespasses in his bases would be dead within minutes, Konohamaru admits. Unless it was Uncle Sasuke, Boruto says, at the same time that Sarada says, unless it was Lord Seventh. They exchange frowns. Neither of them quite understands the other's hero worship of their respective father. I could be wrong, Mitsuki continues with a shrug. It's hard to tell due to the other chakra permeating the area. Yeah, Boruto declares, pushing past Mitsuki and heading toward the cave. It's all scary and mysterious, but are we going to investigate or not? There is no chance to answer. The air behind Boruto displaces, and a stranger is standing there. A kunai glints in the sunlight, and then travels forward in an arc almost too fast for Sarada to follow. The sound of steel punching through muscle and bone echoes in the silence. Sarada opens her mouth to cry out in shock and horror, but Boruto's body disappears. In his place, Konohamaru materializes, having used Kawamiri. The tip of a blade pierces through the front of his shoulder at the same height where Boruto's neck was. Sensei! Sarada cries out as the nameless assailant vanishes, too fast for her to get a look at him. Hers is not the only voice either. Boruto, recovering from being shoved out of danger, stumbles to his feet to help their teacher. I'm fine, Konohamaru grunts, features twisted in pain, hand clutching the bloody wound in his shoulder. Get on your guard. Defensive formation. He only just gets the words out before his knees give way, and he falls forward, body rigid with paralysis. Boruto keeps hold of him, while Mitsuki hurries forward. Is he okay? Sarada shouts, her back to her team as she scans the area for any more signs of the mysterious attacker. Of course, he's not okay. Stupid, he was just stabbed. The wound's turning green, Mitsuki announces. Poison, but I can't tell what kind. Can you help him? Boruto asks. I suppose that's what you expect me to do. The pale boy sighs and rummages in his pack. Yes, it's what we expect you to do. You weirdo. Sarada yells as Boruto materializes behind her. He's never as bothered by Mitsuki's outward lack of empathy as she is. Do you see it, him? The ghost? Sarada supplies. All she remembers is a blur of white. No, he's. The dust nearby lifts, and a kunai comes slicing toward them. Sarada deflects it with her own, but the hand holding it disappears, leaving her fighting air. Boruto growls out in surprise and effort, and judging from the sound of metal on metal, he is now fending off an unexpected attack. Before she can turn to help him, the assailant is back, and she has to guard against the blade again. The ghost, man, appears to be jumping in and out of being, swiping at them whenever he reappears. Just as they find his pattern, he alters it. He kicks Sarada's knees out from under her and then throws Boruto a few feet away. Sarada whips around in time to see the stranger make a beeline for Mitsuki's back. At the last second, her teammate snatches Konohamaru and gets them both out of the way. Sarada wastes no time throwing a smoke bomb to obscure the area. If they can't see, perhaps their assailant can't see either. Is he using Shunshin? If he is, it's faster than any such she's ever seen. No, that's my grandfather's Hiration, Boruto growls, as they take protective stances over their down sensei. There's no telling how long it will be until the next wave of attacks. How do you know? You got any other explanation? But how? Sarada demands, taking a step backward until she and Boruto are back to back. I didn't see him using a kunai or any other object to mark his place. Could be they're too small for us to notice? Let's fix that. The smoke clears, and Sarada activates the Sharingan. Her eyes flick back and forth, stretching her peripheral vision to track the enemy. Behind her, she hears the swirl of wind and energy that suggests Boruto is calling up a Kyoru Rasengan. On my mark, right. Sarada forces herself to relax and focus, to become the embodiment of stillness. Sound is as useful as sight in this case, and she needs whatever help she can get. Minato Namake's teleportation jutsu is famous for its unpredictability, and from the stories she's heard, it poses a challenge even to the Sharingan. So far, the enemy doesn't realize she has it, which should. Out of the corner of her eye, she notices the blades of grass ripple in the wrong direction. There! It's not a physical marker, but a half-second later, their assailant coalesces into view. Now, Boruto gives a wordless yell of effort and lets loose. The whirling ball of energy vanishes as it leaves his fingers, reappearing to hit the ghost man just as he completes his teleportation. Too fast for him to disappear again. The force of it sends him crashing into several of the thick trees surrounding them. For the first time since the unexpected assault occurred, Sarada has time to study their attacker. He is tall and thin, with dull black eyes and long, limp white blonde hair. It isn't long enough to disguise the haphazard stitch scar trailing from temple to jaw. More disturbing is the strange, mottled black rash that radiates across his pallid skin. As he stands, recovering from the blow, the mark looks as if it's growing. Sarada imagines an army of driver ants are crossing his entire body, obscuring any telltale identifying features. What the hell is that? She demands, revolted. That's a release curse seal, Mitsuku informs them. A what? Boruto wants to know. They don't have time for long explanations, not when Konohamaru might be dying. Sarada shoves a finger at him. Who are you? Why did you attack us? You can see me, the strange man says in a mild tone, as if he didn't hear her. Even when I'm then and not now. He takes a step forward, cocking his head to one side to study her. Ah, I see. Sharingan have visual prowess and the ability to view dimensions normal eyes cannot. I should have thought of that. She must be the Uchiha brat. I heard one survived, but he trails off, cocks his head to one side and blinks. Wait, she's not from now. She's from then. Hey you, stop rambling and answer the question. Boruto yells. I apologize, the man says, toneless. I didn't want to hurt you. You're the wrong ones. They won't suit my purpose, no. No. He presses a hand to his head, as if he has a headache. But they got too near to our work. It's delicate, you understand, so please go. Thank you. I have seen individuals before with this level of emotional and psychological damage, Mitsuki notes, moving from their sensei's side. That and the curse seal make him. It is obvious Mitsuki has made the wrong move, though, because their attacker stops mumbling. His entire frame freezes, and he stares at the boy as if he's looking at a monster. Those eyes! The stranger hisses, fear and revulsion dripping from each word. Those eyes, those eyes, those eyes. And then he vanishes, reappearing a half-second later behind Mitsuki with a blade raised. I will pluck them out. Sarada and Boruto are too far away to intervene. Lucky for them, Mitsuki is fast. He twists his torso around, boneless, seizes the hand with the blade, and yanks. The torque of his body as it untwists drags the man around, releasing him into the air as he lets go. The pale man disappears before he can hit the ground, and in an instant is behind Mitsuki again. As the boy tries to retract his arms and reorient himself, the man strikes. Watch out! Boruto yells. The blade freezes inches over Mitsuki's head. Several feet away, Sarada crouches with one knee on the floor while both hands and her mouth hold a wire trap in place. She pulls back, trying to force him away from her teammate. Mitsuki uses the opportunity to get out of range, but the wild-eyed man is stronger than Sarada expected. He shifts his weight, winds the wires around his arm, and pulls, dragging Sarada closer to him. She stumbles forward, headed straight for his kunai-wielding hand, and he disappears. Sarada's face plants into the ground, but she struggles upright just in time to see the man appear in midair above Mitsuki. He punches him with his free hand and, As the boy staggers back in surprise, swings out with the blade again. No! Two of Boruto's shadow clones tackle him, one clutching a leg and the other wrapping around the shoulders. The man doesn't even pause in his forward momentum. He flips one clone over his shoulder and swipes the knife across the other's neck with such vicious force that its head rolls clean off before its body poofs. The clones might as well have been flies for all the attention the pale man gives them, and he makes yet another run at Mitsuki. Sarada tries to intercept him, but this time, he's ready. In one fluid motion, he spins and punches her hard enough in the solar plexus to send her flying backward. Then, in another blink, he has Mitsuki by the throat. I told you, he hisses. You should never have. KCH. A shuriken embeds itself into the back of his hand, forcing his fingers to release Mitsuki. The man's mottled face twists in anger and disgust as he rips the weapon out of his hand, pivots and lobs it straight back. Boruto cries out in pain as the shuriken pierces his dominant shoulder. You both stay back. Mitsuki orders as snakes explode from the sleeve of his robe, wrapping themselves around his opponent. It seems he's only after me. I suggest you take advantage of that. We're not just going to Boruto protests, but Sarada interrupts him. We have to get Kinomaru-sensei out of here and regroup, she hisses. If we keep just reacting to this, we're all going to get killed. As if to punctuate the seriousness of her situation, the pale man vanishes, leaving the snakes curled around a log. This time, he attacks Mitsuki head-on, unleashing a flurry of blows that Mitsuki only just blocks. With gradual effort, he inches their fight away from his teammates. And though Sarada isn't any happier about the situation than Boruto, she knows better than to argue. They grab their unconscious instructor and pull him to safety. What the hell is this guy's deal? Boruto snarls. Other than he's insane? Sarada retorts, keeping watch over Mitsuki's fight from the corner of her eye. She can't get over the speed this creature displays. He doesn't even seem to break a sweat. With the mysterious stranger's attention focused on their teammate, Boruto uses a smoke bomb to obscure his and Sarada's movements. They retreat to a boulder nearby, out of their enemy's range of vision. He's too fast, the blonde boy says as Sarada checks Kinomaru. Their instructor's breathing is shallow, and although Mitsuki has stopped the bleeding, dark green veins riddle the flesh around the puncture. As fast as your grandfather? How am I supposed to know? We never met. But if what Dad says is true, if it was Grandpa Minato's, we'd be dead already. I guess that's something to be thankful for. Sarada mops sweat from Kinomaru's forehead and digs into her pack for her herbs. Her mother might have packed something for her that can slow Poison's progress. It seems faster because he's not using markers, Boruto tells her. He looks hopeful. Unless you saw him? No, I didn't. Damn it. That's a problem. I think it's got something to do with that weird, rash Mitsuki recognized. Then we have to work faster, Boruto says, calling up a few clones. He directs them into the dispersing smoke to back up Mitsuki. Given their opponent's speed and defense, misdirection will be key to defeating him. At least long enough to escape. Even if they didn't have an injured teammate, this guy would be a dangerous opponent. If Sarada lives through this, she's going to make a contract with Lady Katsuyu. She peeks around the rock, watching as Mitsuki and the shadow clones continue to counter strikes from the enemy. The man makes short work of the clones, but Mitsuki has rallied somewhat. Their abilities are well matched, which doesn't surprise Sarada. Mitsuki is the most advanced in their group in terms of speed and power, even if he always avoided showing his true potential. Still, you've gotten slower, Sanin. The mottled man's snarl echoes across the glade. He dodges a blow from one of Mitsuki's long limbs. Did taking a new vessel weaken you? I am not Orochimaru. Mitsuki tells him, steel in his tone. Eyes like him, moves like him. His scent, his scent. The man chants, rolling out a barrage of kicks and punches from 3 separate locations in quick succession. You lie. Leave him alone. A third Boruto clone orders, barreling forward from behind a tree, throwing several shuriken in quick succession. On his second volley, he forces them to turn in midair, heading straight for the man's face. If their opponent were only a little slower, the shuriken jutsu Sarada's father taught Boruto would catch him with ease. He's not this Orochimaru guy. It's no use. He's not listening, Sarada mutters, pulling out a syringe of a general antidote and injecting her teacher. She hopes it will help. Come on, sensei. It's time to wake up. He must be one of Orochimaru's experiments, Mitsuki calls. A failed one, if that curse seal is anything to go by. Orochimaru hasn't worked with curse seals since the 4th Great Ninja War. Oh, that's great to know. How about figuring out how we stop him? A Boruto clone growls before it's thrown backward by the pale man and disappears. Behind their hiding space, the real Boruto prepares to summon more, but stalls when a muffled, Wet thump interrupts the sound of combat. Mitsuki grunts in pain, the sound blending with the rip of muscle and bone torn by steel. Sarada peeks out from behind the rock and freezes in horror. Her teammate stands immobile, clutching at the kunai buried in his gut. "No!" she gasps, while Boruto makes a noise like someone punched him in the throat. Their assailant looks surprised too. Eyes clear, he did not expect to hit his mark so soon. Mitsuki coughs, staring down at the hand shoving the kunai into his abdomen, and then glares. His fingers wrap around the blemished wrist, and he bares his teeth. With a snarl, he pulls the blade from him, the force throwing his aggressor a few feet away. "That won't kill me," he says, eyes narrowed. "Even if you hadn't missed vital organs, I'm immune to most poisons." His eyes glow an eerie blue, and the air around him crackles with an unfamiliar energy. "Now you'll find out the scale of your mistake." The energy surrounding her teammate almost looks like live snakes. For the first time since she ever set eyes on the boy, Sarada experiences a glimmer of fear. Before anything can happen, though, he tenses. And then, as fast as it gathered, the strange energy dissipates. Shock twists his features as he stares down at the hole in his stomach before falling forward. "Special," the pale man mutters, flexing the hand which Mitsuki grabbed earlier. It bends in a way that suggests a fracture. "Poison for Orochimaru. Just to paralyze, not to kill." Too many questions need answering. Too many. He approaches Mitsuki, cocking his head in something akin to curiosity. Given smaller body weight and variances in metabolism, death could be a potential outcome. Must make a note of the subject's reactions. It's about now that Sarada realizes how bad their situation is. Boruto curses, "Damn it, this is bad." "Yeah, let's waste time stating the obvious," Sarada thinks, and replies, "We need to get out of here." "You think Cheeseface over there will let us take a timeout? It's only luck he hasn't seen us here yet. First things first, get Mitsuki away from him," Sarada orders, reaching in her pack for the last of her smoke bombs. It's a gamble, as the same trick isn't always going to work, and she's surprised it has so far. But they don't have a choice. Boruto seems to be of the same mind, because he brings up 2 more clones. "I don't know how long I can keep this up." He might have improved his ability to use shadow clones since the Chunin exam, but does not have his father's stamina, and 4 is still his limit. "As long as we have to," Sarada commands. "I want to try something. Wait until the smoke hits, then send the clones. You stay with Kinomaru-sensei. But just trust me, okay?" She lobs the explosives into the air, and the minute the smoke starts, the clones dart for the tree line. Sarada gives them an extra few seconds and then follows. The sound of combat within the smoke echoes, but she stops just short of the swirling mass. A shadow grows closer to her, and as she grips her kunai, 1 clone materializes, carrying Mitsuki in its arms. "Where is he?" she hisses. "You're 3 o'clock, the clone replies, disappearing behind the boulder. Not a second too soon, because the smoke has dissipated. The enemy disperses the other clone, turning toward her. There's no time to waste. "Hey, Ghost Man!" she yells, calling up her Sharingan and forcing as much of her will into it as she can muster. The man turns to face her, and she feels the tomo in her eyes spinning. "Go to sleep already." She throws up a genjutsu. The man stills. "Nice job." Boruto calls from behind her. "Don't thank me yet. I don't know how long I can hold him," she replies, keeping focused on the enemy. She busies herself with layering several illusions throughout the area. Fake versions of herself and her teammates in several locations, all preparing to attack. It should keep him busy and the genin shielded. Still, she doesn't dare move lest breaking eye contact breaks the illusion. She's never had to do one so complicated before. It strikes her as stupid to not have asked her father the basics of keeping someone trapped in a genjutsu for a prolonged period. If what he says is true, Mitsuki and Kinomaru-sensei are only suffering from paralysis, she says. But they could still die from their wounds if we don't get them medical treatment fast. And that won't happen with them around. So, you need to get far enough away to help them, the Boruto clone says, shifting Mitsuki in his arms. Then we get back to Konoha and get your mom. And your dad. Hell, get mine too. One of us has to stay and keep this guy busy. I've got it. Are you crazy? He's much faster than you. You'll get killed. I fought against way worse. The original Boruto snaps. I can handle it. Might even beat an antidote out of him. The clone adds, cracking his knuckles. And you're strong enough to carry someone away and still be fast. You take Mitsuki because that weirdo wants him for something. I'll deal with him when he breaks the genjutsu, the original tells her. No way. I can see him coming better than you can. Sarada shoots back. Your clones can confuse him while you run. I'll deal with this. If I can keep the genjutsu going without eye contact, I can make a break for it too. I'll bring Kinomaru-sensei. He's heavier, and I can lift heavier loads than you. Boruto makes a noise like he wants to protest, but something on her face must convince him. Damn it. Fine. He grunts in reluctance, grabbing a rock from the ground and transforming it into a copy of their unconscious teammate. The clone takes the decoy while Boruto lifts Mitsuki close. But don't freaking die, he warns Sarada. Uncle Sasuke will obliterate me if you do. Both of them dart off into the distance. Right, because everyone will forgive me if I get the Hokage's son killed, Sarada grouses. She creates shadow clones of her own, transforming them to resemble herself, Boruto, and an unconscious Mitsuki. The action isn't a moment too soon because the assailant gives an abrupt shake of the head and breaks her illusion. Get Kinomaru-sensei out of here. She orders the clones and dives forward to engage with the enemy. Boruto would call her an idiot for taking the guy on as her original self, but she needs to buy time. As before, every time she almost lands a blow, he teleports and takes a swipe at her, forcing her to rely on the Sharingan just to keep ahead of him. Even as she parries his blows and blocks more swipes from the poison kunai with her taijutsu, she can scarce keep up with him. One too close blow swipes at her back, and she only moves at the last second. The steel snags her tunic and air hits her skin. She knows he sliced open the fabric right across the Uchiwa symbol on her back. A few millimeters deeper and with more pressure, he'd have nicked her spine. She needs to get behind him, but he's so fast. If I had Papa's Amino Jikara ability, I could do it. But that only works with a Rinnegan. The only way she'll survive this fight is if she predicts where her opponent will be next. There must be an underlying rhythm to his attack, a subconscious sequence, because as much as humans try to deviate from patterns, they still fall into them. They're hardwired for it by their DNA. If she can just find it before she gets stabbed, right, left, up, down, change. Left, down, up, left, no pattern there, no, wait. Look where he steps. Just before he attacks, he steps right, disappears, and pushes off to come at her from the left. Whichever foot her opponent uses to push off from the ground shows where he's coming from next. He's not attacking from her outside range either, so there are only a few places he can end his jump. He's aiming for vital spots, too, which narrows down the locations for him to materialize. So, calculating the force of the lift achieved when pushing off from the ground, coupled with the force needed to land a fatal blow. She only needs to glance at his stance and balance the probabilities if she leaves herself open for a half-second longer. Sarada feels the air swell behind her and knows he's taken the bait. With a yell of effort, she reaches behind her where she knows his hand will be and grasps the arm that grasps toward her. She flips him over her shoulder, careful to keep a firm hold of him so he can't teleport off again. He flies face first into the ground, which splinters from the force of impact. The kunai drops from his fingers, and she tows the blade beyond reach before winding around so she's got her knee in his back. His arm remains grasped in a locked position, straight and tight. With enough pressure, she could snap it to match the hand Mitsuki broke earlier. That's right, she snarls. I'm an Uchiha, and there's a reason you don't mess with us. She twists his wrist a little, earning a quiet groan. Now, tell me how to fix whatever you did to my friends. And you can tell me why the hell you want to kill us. I have no intention of killing anyone, he tells her, sounding muffled and confused. Not yet. There are questions, so many questions, and the boy will know. Only someone with eyes like that. What are you talking about? Never dead enough. So many questions. He cocks his head, considering her as if an apology. But you won't be there to hear them. Big words for someone whose arm I'm about to break. She possesses Sharingan, but she is blind, he mutters with a high-pitched giggle. You are not the only one who can create shadow clones. He vanishes in a puff of smoke, and Sarada's hands clutch around nothing. Wah! Sarada whirls, eyes flitting around for any sign of where he will come from next. Damn it, when did he switch? She makes a move toward the discarded kunai, in case he intends to take it back. Arms wrap around her from behind, and the world disappears in a blur of color and sound. It reappears a millisecond later as Sarada gets a brief impression of foggy, gray clouds. It was nice to meet you, her enemy whispers in her ear. Then the arms vanish, and there's an unpleasant swooping sensation in her stomach, and she is falling. The white mist around her disappears as she plummets, and Sarada grasps at the space around her. He teleported me into midair, she realizes with delayed hysteria, her body flipping in wild, out-of-control movements. She's above the valley and way too far from any of the rock faces to get a handhold to save herself. With or without chakra. He's nowhere nearby, meaning he teleported away before leaving her to her death, which will be soon if she doesn't do something. Sarada forces her arms and legs to stop flapping, thrusting them outward spread eagle fashion to slow her descent as best she can. The fall itself will not kill her, though it's making her head spin, but the landing, think. It's as the ground rushes up to her faster and faster, to the degree where her Sharingan can pick out individual blades of grass, that she gets an idea. It's something she has never attempted, something she doesn't even know if her mother has tried such a gamble. Hitting the ground hard enough for it to split apart and throw up air pockets is not the best move she's ever planned, but it's all she has right now. She pulls back her right arm, gathering every ounce of chakra she's been storing until now into her fist. It requires the most precise timing. Only when she's a few feet away does she punch forward, bellowing out, "Shinaro!" There is a blast of sound and dust and rubble. Her right side explodes into fiery pain, and then nothing. Chapter 3. I don't get it, Naruto says, staring at his froggy wallet with a mournful expression. It is much thinner now than it was half an hour ago. How does this always happen? Maybe if you didn't eat out all the time, Sakura suggests, or if you stopped accepting that fourth bowl of ramen Kakashi-sensei always orders for you. Then you'd notice him sneak off before it comes time to pay. Yeah, well, you two should do that for me. We're a team. Remember, you're supposed to have my back, and you're supposed to be a shinobi with better observational skills than a bag of hair, Sasuke mutters. What was that, asshole? You heard me. Guys, look. Sakura interrupts the inevitable shouting match-turn fistfight and points ahead. Kakashi is waiting for them by the village gate, but he isn't alone. 3 figures wearing Konoha forehead protectors converse with him. 2 of them are familiar faces, the others identifiable only due to the distinctive Hyuga looks. It's Hinata and Niji, and Sakura trails off, frowning in thought. I think Lady Tsunade said his name's Takuma. He's a chunin. Naruto doesn't care. Hey, Hinata, he calls, waving in jubilation as he hurries toward her. Even from a distance, it's easy to make out the massive blush that creeps over the Hyuga girl's pale cheeks. Sakura and Sasuke follow their teammate. Hinata barely notices them as she stammers, in Naruto. Hi. It's the usual behavior though, so Sakura doesn't call her on it. Instead, she addresses her in a warm voice. Lady Tsunade mentioned she sent you with the reconnaissance team. That's amazing. I'm glad you're well enough to go out on missions again. Based on rumor, it has taken a while for Hinata to heal since her ill-fated exam bout, which makes it even more surprising they included her on the surveyor team with Niji. They may be cousins, but given how he injured her during their match, the 2 of them working together seems counterintuitive. This mission required any Byakugan still in the village. Hinata's brusque cousin says, tone is abrupt and curt as usual. You'd better be treating her well, Naruto orders. And not just because she's your teammate today. Niji narrows his eyes and folds his arms in front of him while Hinata stammers. It's fine, in Naruto. We've been TT training T together. If possible, she turns redder. Sakura and Kakashi exchange knowing glances at this, but Naruto is oblivious. He blinks at Niji in surprise. Yeah, I have learned not to underestimate the strength of others, the Hyuga prodigy sniffs. In particular, no one that your ridiculous confidence has inspired. Or foolhardiness. It's too soon to say which. He shoots a glance at Sakura. Sakura, is it? I never complimented you on your match in the exams. Your ability to throw off a clan technique as strong as the Yamanaka's was surprising. Thanks, Sakura manages. The guy has a long way to go before he can manage a proper compliment. Sasuke, growing irritated with the niceties, pushes past Niji. We're wasting time. Unless you guys have anything to tell us about the mission, we've got to get going. He doesn't linger to listen, though, and pushes forward along the dirt path. Geez, what's his problem now? Naruto grumbles, while Niji frowns at the retreating Uchiwa clad back. He said he doesn't want to waste time. Sakura defends, hands on her hips. Ugh! Naruto never listens. Have you found anything beyond the reports you sent earlier? Kakashi asks Takuma. We suspect it's being caused by something in the interior, but we can't be sure what. It's too far out of our range, the remaining Hyuga replies. Just keep a sharp eye out. Unless you see something we didn't, I doubt we'll have concrete answers until the Hokage sends a field team. I'm not sure we'll notice anything you 3 couldn't, Kakashi admits. I imagine Lady Tsunade simply wants all the bases covered. Just stick to the mission parameters and report back as soon as possible. Soon being the key word here, Niji adds. The whole area gives me an uneasy feeling. The 2 groups exchange final goodbyes, and the rest of the team go to catch up with Sasuke. She's kind of weird, isn't she? Naruto remarks after they have traveled a significant distance from the gate. Hinata, do you think it's a Hyuga thing? Or just her? Niji's kind of weird too, but she's, I don't know. Sakura sighs. Wow, you are so dumb, Naruto. Sasuke hums in agreement. Hey, what's that supposed to mean? Observation's not his strong point, Kakashi suggests. Like I said, a bag of hair. If you don't shut up, I'll break your face. TCH. Naruto's teeth clench together, and his face turns an angry purple, fighting the temptation to shove a Rasengan at his friend. A moment later, he relaxes and contents himself with shooting a puzzled look at Sasuke's back. Kakashi is proud of Naruto exercising a measure of control, but that pride is tempered by his concern for Sasuke. At least when they were both at each other's throats, he knew they were in a healthy mind frame. These days, the Uchiha boy's impatience overshadows that. Kakashi-sensei? Shouldn't the Byakugan be able to see through everything? Sakura asks, interrupting his thoughts. In theory, yes, he replies, bringing out the map that Shizen gave him and studying the topography. But certain objects or fields can obscure the accuracy. There are several techniques in specific created to block it. In fact, they emit a kind of null shield to keep those who have it from seeing. Do you know any of them? No. They're classified as forbidden here. In fact, the Hokage permits them only during times of war. Other villages wanted to keep our Hyuga shinobi from learning information or locating important objects. So, if this is something like that, considering the scale, it means there could be something very dangerous inside that bubble. Both Naruto and Sasuke's ears perk up at the word dangerous. That's the reason Takuma advised us to keep to the mission parameters. Dangerous? Like, what do you mean? Naruto wants to know. Think there's an army of enemy ninja hiding in there? Or a secret treasure someone's trying to protect? Or what about zombies? It could be zombies, right, Kakashi-sensei? Have you been staying up late watching bad science fiction movies again? Well, yeah, kinda. But come on, could it be? Kakashi sighs. Sasuke grimaces and rubs his hand. The movement far too casual to be unconscious, across the back of his neck. Their teacher, distracted by Naruto's exuberant chatter, doesn't notice, but Sakura does. Are you all right? She asks him, pitching her voice low to keep the others from hearing. Whispers carry more than murmurs among practiced shinobi. I'm fine. Are you sure? She prods. Because I saw you. He throws a fierce, sideways glare at her, which warns her from finishing. Either he doesn't want her talking asking because it bothers him, or he's worried drawing attention to his discomfort might make the others think he's weak. Or both. Ever since the Forest of Death, Sakura has been keeping an eye out on the unsightly smear on Sasuke's neck. Even though he and Kakashi insist everything is fine, she long ago figured out that her teammates often lie to protect her. While she appreciates this evidence of them considering her feelings, she doesn't appreciate that they think she's stupid. And she trusts nothing which causes Sasuke pain or turns him into the terrifying avenging dynamo from the Forest of Death. She hates that damn mark. You should tell Kakashi-sensei. There's no point. When Sakura raises a challenging eyebrow, he realizes she won't just let it go with so vague an explanation. It stings from time to time. There's no reason for it that Kakashi or I can figure out. But I'm not bringing it up if it means us turning around and going back. Not for something that isn't a problem, but if neither of you know what makes it. Sasuke, that's a problem, she protests. When his stubborn expression doesn't change, she clenches her fists and steels herself. If you don't say something, I will. I'm worried about you. No one asked you to be, he snaps. But A disgusted expression crosses his features. And if he were the demonstrative sort, he'd be throwing up his hands. Fine. Go ahead. Tell him. But he'll say the same thing. Sasuke sneers. And then he'll think you're wasting his time with useless stuff, as usual. He strides on without waiting to see if his barb hits. Sakura's shoulders droop, having Sasuke confirm just what she thinks of herself. That she's useless. Isn't new, but it still hurts. She wishes she could tell him, she just doesn't want him hurt, even though she knows it will fall on deaf ears. She senses Naruto come up behind her and shoot a glance at Sasuke's departing back. He's in another one of his bad moods today, huh? Yeah. Is it just me? Or is he getting worse every day? I mean, geez, if I didn't know better, I'd say he was the girl on the team. Naruto goes on in blithe ignorance. With all the sulking and the mood swings. I mean, you don't even get like that when it's your time of the month, let alone every 5 minutes like. Slap. Ow. You stupid clod. How dare you say stuff like that? Sakura snarls, her cheeks red and her eyes blazing. She knocks his feet out from under him and then tramples on him until he crawls away to hide behind Kakashi. Then, with a toss of her hair, she stomps off after Sasuke. Cradling a possible cracked rib, Naruto curses his luck. He doesn't see how what he says is any more insulting than the way Sasuke treats her. But still, she's back to trailing after the other guy with that stupid, hopeful expression on her face. He bets she's getting ready to go complain to him. They're always talking to each other when they figure Naruto can't hear or doesn't notice. Or at least, Sakura talks and Sasuke just sits there. But he doesn't get up and leave. which he'd do if Naruto did the talking. The whole thing bothers him. Naruto is often the odd man out even though he's become so much stronger than when they first got assigned together. He thought he'd be struggling to catch up with Sakura and Sasuke forever. Now that he feels he's on the same level as them at last, there's another insurmountable obstacle. Naruto's the one who shows he likes her, and Sasuke doesn't even pay attention. Naruto would do whatever Sakura asked, but he's invisible next to the other boy. It's not fair. He supposes he shouldn't complain too much. At least Sakura considers him her friend these days, not a freak like she once did, back when her eyes used to be the same as everyone else's in the village. But I want more, he mumbles under his breath, crossing his arms in frustration. You should stop trying so hard, Kakashi suggests, materializing beside him out of nowhere. Under normal circumstances, when you stop trying to force something, matters arrange themselves. He pauses and then adds, besides, I'm sure there are other people who might be more receptive to you and are just too shy to say so. Far from being comforted by this, the blonde boy looks disturbed. Ugh, are you hitting on me right now? What? No. Kakashi splutters, eyes going wide in panic and shock. Why would you? I'm just trying to give you some advice. Yeah, well, I'm not taking any advice from someone who doesn't even have a girlfriend and spends his free time reading porn, Naruto declares. How do you know I don't have a girlfriend? Maybe I'm just a private person, so you wouldn't know even if I did. If you ever get a girlfriend, I bet she'd be the most patient person on the planet to put up with you. I mean, you're always late, you never pay for lunch, you've always got that mask on. You sort of smell like dog. Naruto goes on enumerating Kakashi's various faults, and the Jonin sighs. He wishes his students would have more respect for him, but it figures he would get stuck with the Genin team that always gives him a hard time. He puts that down to the third Hokage and his many ulterior motives. Sure, there's the fact Kakashi's Sharingan makes him the only candidate they could assign who could control Naruto and guide Sasuke. But he's also sure it's retribution for being a stuck-up, pain in the ass as a child. Lord Third always had a twisted sense of humor. The rest of the journey continues more or less peaceably. The kids fall into their usual bickering, back-and-forth conversation, while Kakashi follows at a discreet distance. He's close enough to reach them in case of a sudden attack, but far enough away where he doesn't catch every word they say to each other. He learned early in their partnership that kids talk about weird shit, and there are now a few things he can never unhear. By noon, the peace is marred briefly by an impromptu sun shower. Naruto complains that his clothes will chafe now, as Sakura laughs and points at tiny rainbows forming in the misty light from the treetops. Sasuke squints up at the sparse dark clouds, and it's possible the corner of his mouth is lifting. Sakura tries to get Sasuke to dance with her in the rain, while Naruto reaches up and muses the taller boy's hair. Sasuke growls and tries to fight him off, but Naruto ducks and pulls faces at him, taunting while Sakura shouts at him to stop it. The old man might have been onto something, Kakashi admits as he watches his charges. Against all odds, the kids have grown on him. If it didn't drive me crazy 80% of the time, the sun now eases toward the horizon when they reach the area where they were told they could find the first sign of the phenomenon. They pass several Dosujin and enter a wooded area. The roadside markers are helpful to Kakashi as the trees are too thick in this section to see much sky or offer him a way to guide them. He is digging into his pack to assess the map again when Sasuke speaks. Where did the report say this bubble starts? A half-kilometer past the Aoi shrine, Kakashi replies, unfolding the map. Then we got a problem. Sasuke points ahead of them. Because that's not a half-kilometer away. It's about a quarter. It's hard to see right away from this distance. But Sasuke's eyes are better than his, and they have all learned to trust them. Up ahead, the woodland path stretches into the distance and comes to an abrupt stop. Although the trail and the surrounding trees are visible, it all appears blurred and warped by an almost translucent wall. Not a wall, Kakashi realizes as he follows the phenomenon's progression. It stretches up into the sky, curving as it goes like the biggest, gaudiest salad bowl in existence. The entire area behind the strange barrier appears trapped beneath a dome. Kakashi glances at the map again, doing a few mental longitudinal calculations, and holds back a curse. It's not where they said it would be. So, either the first team sent inaccurate information to the Hokage, Sasuke concludes, or it's growing. Neither of which is a good thing, Kakashi agrees, frowning up at the thing. If the bubble is growing, their mission has become even more imperative. The team must assess the danger level as fast as possible and return the intel to the village. Kakashi motions for the kids to stay behind him as he approaches the translucent field, frowning as he deliberates on how to tackle the problem. Barriers aren't a new thing for him, but he somehow doubts a minor unsealing technique will be much use in this case. He pushes up his Itaiate, tugs his mask down to free his Sharingan, and studies the wall in front of him. Sasuke, he calls, motioning for the boy to come stand beside him. Let's see what we can see. Sasuke nods, resolute, and his brows draw together as he calls up his Sharingan. His eyes flick from side to side, making a mental catalog of the area. The scene behind the barrier is indistinguishable from the one where he and his team stand, although it might as well be behind a pane of glass. He can detect nothing out of the ordinary for as far as his vision stretches. As his acuity doesn't reach as far as a Hyuga's might, it doesn't help much. Anything? Kakashi asks, the visible parts of his face pulled into a frown. Nothing stands out. Me neither. After all that, I guess the Sharingan's about as useful as the Byakugan. Naruto jeers, but when Sakura raises a fist in warning, he shuts up and pouts. What a waste of time, Sasuke grumbles, allowing his regular vision to reassert itself. Not yet. It isn't, Kakashi tells him. We still have the problem of the increased circumference. The last team didn't know about that. We need to find out how it's growing. Is it an isolated incident or happening along an entire circumference? Huh? Naruto says, scratching his head. It means we have to find out if it's getting bigger, Sakura explains. The Hyuga team mentioned these coordinates in their reports as the outer limits, Kakashi says, pointing out several places on the map. We need to check them all to find out if the bubble has grown beyond them. And if so, we need to find out how much. He goes quiet now, considering his next move. They will need to split up for optimal coverage. We need one Sharingan per team, he decides. Naruto, you're with me. Sakura, you go with Sasuke. Ah, come on. Naruto whines, while Sakura punches the air in delight. I need everyone paying attention, not sniping with each other, Kakashi says, voice firm. Now let's go. There's more to it than that, but he doesn't bother explaining it to them. In an ideal situation, he could send Naruto and Sasuke off together and take Sakura with him. On missions, however, he isn't comfortable leaving her on her own if he can help it. The boys, when they deign to work together, are an unstoppable and effective team. They can handle danger on their own, while Sakura still has a tendency to think with her heart and not her head. And unlike Naruto, who has the power to back up his impulsiveness, Sakura might end up with a serious injury. Then again, the boys have been at each other's throats of late, and not in what Kakashi classifies as healthy rivalry either. If he puts Sakura and Naruto together and keeps Sasuke with him, there shouldn't be an issue. Under normal circumstances, anyhow, since the attack on Konoha, Sasuke has been a more difficult case than Naruto. Kakashi also knows from experience that forcing one's presence on another will have the opposite effect. The best choice in this case is to just make sure the boy is with someone who cares about him and provides him with a different challenge. So it has to be Sakura. She's level-headed when she has to be, and becomes more so with every mission. Kakashi has also noticed that she and Sasuke have a keen awareness of each other in conflict situations. While he doubts Sasuke even realizes it, the boy is protective of her in a way he isn't of Naruto. With the Jinchuriki, it's a competition. With Sakura, it's something Kakashi suspects Sasuke hasn't had a lot of experience with since the murder of his family. The two teams split up, each with the directive to keep an eye on how the bubble is growing and mark changes in their field booklets. That's another reason it's better that Kakashi and Sakura are part of different groups. They're both better at calculations than the boys, and when Naruto continues to complain, Kakashi says so, which earns 2 scowls and a rare, superior look from Sakura before they leave. Despite the injured male pride, Sasuke prefers not to be around Kakashi. His teacher knows him better than he likes and notices more than he should. At least with Sakura, she's easy to distract with other things. He doesn't worry about her trying to psychoanalyze what's on his mind, like how frustrated he is with how much he's not improving, or how more and more he's been having nightmares about Itachi still roaming the world. He can never rest until his brother is dead, and he's been avoiding that truth. With all the training and useless missions and hanging around with Naruto and Sakura, he's forgotten that. Most disturbing of all is that with Kakashi teaching him one-on-one since the exams, Sasuke remembers more. For the first time since he lost his father and brother, he recalls what it felt like to look up to someone. If he relies too much on the comfort he gets from that, it might hold him back from doing what's necessary. On that topic, he glances at his partner. He emits a silent groan when he realizes she's been gazing at him this entire time instead of charting the phenomenon. Because Sakura is ecstatic about Kakashi's decision. Fate, it seems, wants her and Sasuke together, which means she can show him she's strong too. Sasuke and Naruto are rivals and friends, even though they protest the latter fact. They challenge each other and use one another as a way of measuring strength. Sakura has been envious of their dynamic ever since their academy days. Honestly, sometimes Sasuke is more interested in Naruto than he is in. Sakura, would you focus? Sasuke sighs. You need to keep an eye out too. Oh, right, yeah. She laughs, nervous. Sorry. Don't be sorry. Just pay attention to what's important. Sasuke hesitates, and, with the delicacy of someone moments from detonating an explosive tag, adds, you're better at noticing Genjutsu than me. Ever since being exposed to Itachi's Tsukuyomi, Sasuke's brain seizes in panic during the first seconds under an illusion. He's trying to overcome this, but those crucial half-seconds wasted could one day mean the difference between success or failure on a mission. Sakura, however, has made a point of recognizing Genjutsu and breaking it since Kakashi cast his first one on her. It's hard for Sasuke to accept when someone is better than he is at something. Somehow, though, confessing a relative weakness to Sakura is less grating than if he were to admit such a thing to Naruto, which he never ever will, not without a life-altering battle where he's hanging an inch from dying. As Sasuke's words sink in, the transformation in Sakura is immediate. One moment, she is gaping at him in shock, and then a smug, confident expression passes over her features. Her head lifts and her posture straightens. Right, she declares, facing ahead with resolve. Sasuke can't help staring at her in bemusement. He doesn't understand why the truth sometimes sends her sulking, while other times it makes her beam like she's come in first place at a competition. He decides girls are weird and ignores the way his chest warms with something akin to amusement. At any rate, they complete the rest of their task without incident. In no time, they have circled around the curving barrier, marking its limits and noting observations. After following the bubble over the side of a steep cliff, the two of them end up in a forested valley. Several seconds later, Kakashi and Naruto arrive. Well, that's that, their sensei says when they give him their report. Nothing remarkable apart from the fact it's growing. Which could be remarkable, Sakura says. Right? If it's grown this much since the first team was here, it could reach the village in a matter of days if we're lucky, Kakashi confirms. We have to find out more about it, so that if it's a threat, we know how to stop it. Well, what the heck are we waiting for? Naruto demands, annoyed and impatient. He calls up a shadow clone. Don't! Before anyone can stop him, the clone jumps through the barrier, the strange energy rippling around him as it swallows him. Naruto! Sakura cries out in horror. She expects the clone to disintegrate or worse. Beside her, the original looks smug. Look, there's nothing wrong. I don't get why the other team didn't just do this, his clone says from the other side of the barrier, the voice somewhat muffled. You idiot, Sasuke snaps as Sakura hammers the original on the head. Naruto, there's a reason no one did that before, Kakashi bites out, forcing himself to stay calm. If that barrier drains chakra, it could leach it from the original source. Or if you disturbed any hidden wards, whoever or whatever's doing this might become alerted to our presence. Oh, the clone and the original chorus with identical expressions of sheepishness overtaking them. Kakashi pinches the bridge of his nose. To be honest, he's surprised it took the kid this long to try something so foolhardy. It's just lucky the knucklehead sent a clone instead of himself. Oh well, Kakashi continues with a sigh. While you're in there, do you notice anything different? Strange? The clone blinks. Like what? Bag of hair. Sasuke mutters. Is there anything different in there than there is out here? Sakura asks. Does it smell or feel different? Does anything look different? The clone peers around him. No, it's about the same as wait, it amends. Yeah, it's drier over here. Like it hasn't rained in a while. But it rained not even an hour ago, Sakura points out. All the trees are still wet here, and so is the grass and the road. Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi makes a judgment call then and steps through the barrier. His immediate impression is of having a cold wave wash over him while being electrocuted at the same time. For several footsteps, it feels like he's wading through undiluted mochi. And then he's through the barrier. The world rushes back into focus, and the shadow clone juts his chin out at him. See? Nothing happened. It disappears as Sasuke, Sakura, and the real Naruto follow through the barrier. This time, Sakura says with a shiver. Kakashi casts his eyes about to study the interior of the barrier. From this side, it's as if the bubble doesn't even exist. The world stretches on around them as if lit by a different sun, and the air even tastes drier. The road they now stand on is better kept up than the road outside the bubble. It appears paved, but it joins up seamlessly with the rough path they used to travel here. Sasuke? Right, he answers, eyes gleaming red. Kakashi activates his own Sharingan, and the two set about examining their immediate area. What do you see? Sakura whispers to Sasuke. It's like two pieces of a puzzle that someone stuck together, but they weren't supposed to fit to begin with. That's because they're not supposed to, Kakashi says. There are two different spaces pressing up against each other. What does that mean? Kakashi forgets sometimes that Sasuke doesn't know as much about the Sharingan's capabilities as he does. Instead of answering right away, he addresses the whole team. Do any of you know why Jinjutsu works? Jinjutsu is when a shinobi controls the chakra flow of a target's cerebral nervous system, thus affecting their senses, Sakura recites. That's how it works, not why. Huh? Naruto says, and from his teammates' expressions, they're also lost. Kakashi sighs and tries to figure out how to rephrase his words. Everyone perceives things differently. Nobody sees color the same way or experiences scent or sound the same. Our perceptions affect our reality. If you were to project the exact way in which you perceive something, like the smell of the ocean, it would differ from how someone else does, like what I see with the Sharingan and what someone with blurred vision might see. Sasuke suggests a crease in his brow as he thinks about it. Right. If someone with blurred vision casts a Jinjutsu based on their perceptions, you'd see their version of the world. It wouldn't be hard to break an illusion like that, Kakashi agrees. The reason Jinjutsu works, however, is that by controlling the chakra flow of a target, for a moment we open their senses enough to perceive parallel dimensions. Dimensions? Sakura repeats, skeptical. Different sections of space and time, Kakashi elaborates. Events and situations which aren't real to us, but in another place or time could be or could have been. They happen on a different plane of existence than we do. So all we can experience is an afterimage. So like there's our reality, which is the real one, but then there's a different reality? Like where they don't have shrimp or something. Naruto posits. Yes. Except, well, all the realities are real. They exist in a separate space, Kakashi confirms. When we use Jinjutsu, it's only an instant, but it's enough for our target senses to compensate and build on it based on their own perceptions. Skilled Jinjutsu users can call on several dimensions at once and create layers, which is how you get Jinjutsu that a person can't break out of, Sasuke states. Thinking back on the world created by Itachi's Mangekyo Sharingan. That sounds way complicated, Sakura breathes. There's a reason they don't teach that at the academy, Kakashi agrees. Shinobi don't require more than the knowledge of how Jinjutsu works. Only those with a specific visual prowess understand the actual truth. So, what do we do now? Head back to the village? I say we keep looking around, Naruto declares. I mean, we're already here. Might as well have something to tell Granny Tsunade when we get back. We need to warn the village this thing is growing, at least, Kakashi says. Sasuke and I will stay here, see if we can find out more. You and Sakura. An unintelligible yell shatters the silence, cutting off his directive. Out of the corner of his eye, he sees something drop from the sky several hundred feet away. Sound explodes in the distance, and the woodland floor beneath their feet rumbles. Birds take to the sky, and a billowing cloud of dust rises over the trees. Without exchanging a word, the team takes off toward the disturbance. Chapter 4. Team 7 bursts out of the trees and into a clearing. The space is utterly empty, but for the meters-wide crater in the ground, it continues to emit clouds of dust into the air. Kakashi motions for his team to stay back, then takes several tentative steps forward. Senses alert in case any threats make themselves known. Once he gets within several paces of the depression, however, he freezes in disbelief. In the middle of the broken earth, the body of a child lies motionless. It's a girl, he discovers, and one not much older than Sakura. She is spread-eagled on her back, blood soaking her face and black hair. Her right arm juts out at an impossible angle, dislocated shoulder from the look of it, and her hand looks shattered. Bone fragments pierce through the skin there. Oh my gosh! Sakura cries, hurrying forward. Is she okay? Be careful, Kakashi tells her, forcing her to stay back. We don't know where she came from or how she got here. And we don't know the capabilities of anyone on this side of the phenomenon. But she's in such bad shape, which is an understatement, considering the girl is so bruised and battered that her clothing is in tatters. Entire chunks of her dull red tunic have been torn away, likely from falling debris. She's wearing a Hittite, Naruto points out, peeking over the depression in the ground. His eyes widen. She's from Konoha. Sakura pushes forward at that, sliding down into the crater to kneel by the girl. She presses her fingers to the side of her neck, and her eyes widen. She's alive. We gotta help her. Naruto insists, also scrambling down to help. Sasuke hangs back, staring at the prone figure in calculation. Where did she come from? He mutters, which is exactly what Kakashi would like to know. He glances up, hoping for a clue, but sees nothing except clouds. Given the formation of the crater and the angle she's lying at, she had to have fallen from directly above. Which makes no sense, considering there's nothing she could have fallen from. The cliffs towering over the valley are a good 300 or so meters away. The girl groans. "Look, Kakashi-sensei. She's waking up." Sakura cries, and everyone's attention shifts to the stranger whose eyelids flutter. Her face spasms in pain, and her eyes squint open. Kakashi and Sasuke move closer to her as well. "Are you all right?" Naruto asks despite the obvious answer. "Mama? Papa?" She murmurs dazedly, frowning at Kakashi and Naruto. "Uncle?" Sakura leans over her, concern etched into every part of her small frame. "Do you think she's delirious or something? Probably a concussion." "Check her pupils," Sasuke points out, now also crouching down beside her. "That's not a surprise," Kakashi admits, remembering the sudden yell and how fast the explosion came afterward. A fall from that height should have killed her. The question is why it didn't. "Hey!" Naruto shouts exuberantly, darting away and back in an instant. He cradles something in his hands. "Look what I found." It's a pair of bent, cracked glasses. They match the color of the girl's clothing, so there's a good chance they belong to her. "I can't believe those survived," Sasuke remarks. "They must have come off in the fall," Kakashi suggests. "If they'd stayed on, they would have been crushed in her face and eyes on impact." Sakura mops the blood from the girl's brow as best she can, then holds a hand out for the glasses. Once Naruto passes them over, she settles them carefully across the bridge of the girl's nose. This appears to improve the stranger's focus because her eyes widen at the sight of the people standing over her. She gapes, opening her mouth to speak. There's blood there too, and she probably loosened a few teeth on impact, but no sound comes out. "Shoo!" Sakura stops her. "Don't try to talk. You're really hurt right now. It's best if you just save your energy." But the girl slowly shakes her head, tears welling in Onyx's eyes. "I'm dead, aren't I?" She croaks, lips trembling with what could be as much fear as pain. "I have to be. That's the only reason. Can you?" She trails off when something like understanding crosses her features. She tries to inch away, only to shriek sharply in agony. "No! Stop that! Don't move!" Sakura orders, panicked. The girl doesn't listen, instead bringing up her left hand. With trembling fingers, she forms a sign. "Kai!" She gasps. When nothing appears to happen, dread enters her voice, and she tries again. "Keikai." She thinks we're a Jinjutsu, Sasuke realizes while Sakura tries to calm the girl before she exacerbates her wounds anymore. "Why?" She's confused. "Head injury," it looks like Kakashi answers. The girl whimpers and shuts her eyes, breathing in short, pain gasps. "We have to get her back to the village," Sakura says. "The Hokage can." "No." "What? Why?" "For all we know, this girl is from this side of the breach. But she might not be. But if she is, and we bring her back through with us, there's a risk of disrupting her world and ours. What happens if the phenomenon stops and she gets stuck there? What happens if it stops and we get stuck here?" Sasuke counters, thinking along the same lines. He and Naruto eye the girl again, this time with wariness. Sakura's eyes blaze. "So, you're telling me that we're not even going to try to help her?" "I didn't say that," Kakashi is quick to assure her. In situations where Sakura refuses to do something, Naruto and Sasuke are even less likely to obey. Kakashi might be their leader, but he's also learned that the three of them have a tendency to do the exact opposite of his orders. And somehow, against all odds, they always manage to be right about it. He kneels by both girls. "We have to do what we came here to do, at least until we learn more about what's going on. And if we heal her, she can tell us," Sasuke points out. "Exactly. So, on that note, Sasuke, Naruto, keep an eye on the surrounding area," Kakashi orders. "This girl didn't get to be here on her own, I don't think. See if there's anything around that might explain what happened." "Got it, right?" Kakashi takes a moment to assess the girl before moving her. Although she barely seemed to retain enough motor skills before to pull away from them and move her hand, it's best to be careful. He scoops her up, pulling her to his chest. As he does so, he notices that her back is an even worse mess than her front. It's full of bruises and scratches, which he can see because the entire back of her dress has been torn off. There's nothing but black bandages there, raw, threadbare, and stuck to her skin with blood and sweat. Kakashi frowns at one chunk of fabric, slashed right across the top of what might have been a red circle. It could possibly be the leaf symbol most jonin wear on their flak jackets, but there's not enough of it left for him to be sure. In any case, that particular cut is too clean, a straight swipe from a blade. The rest of the tears in her clothing are more ragged, like they were made from a blast shockwave. It's as if she was too close to an exploding tag when it detonated. A matter to ponder later. Right now, they need to get out of the open so he can assess the girl's injuries. There's a small area back in the copse of trees, shaded by brush and overhang. He heads there, sending a clone of himself to keep watch as he does. Meanwhile, Sakura helps him lower the girl to the ground. I need you to hold her still. Why? She asks. I'm going to set her arm. And it will hurt. The girl whines again, trying to drag herself away from them. Do you know what you're doing? Sakura asks quietly. You might make it worse. Give me some credit. Kakashi replies easily, injecting confidence into his tone. A comrade of mine showed me the basics once. It's not going to heal her completely, but I can at least put the bones back where they're supposed to be. How? Sakura asks. That hand looks like it was crushed by a rock. If I'm not mistaken, it was her hand that did the crushing, he replies, studying the mess of bones. Sakura blinks. It only takes her a moment to work out what he means. Wait, like what Lady Tsunade can do. Maybe. He digs into his pouch and brings out 2 round pills. Here, painkillers. She's going to want these. I'm afraid I don't have the same qualifications as a medic need, so I'm using a cruder method. Sakura takes the tablets and induces the girl to swallow them. The girl fights, spitting them out, eyes wide but glazed with pain and fear. No, not me. She tries to protest. Find them. Heal them. Not me. Who? Aru-sensei, Suki poisoned, and I couldn't. And Boruto's? Panic makes her thrashing more violent. It's all Sakura can do to hold on to her. Please, the ghost man. He'll kill. Her words cut off, turning into an agonized keen. All of her movements have jostled her injured arm, and Kakashi decides they will deal with that first, sedatives or not. Okay, shoulder first, and then the rest, Kakashi decides. Sakura, keep her calm and get a good grip. They maneuver their patient until Sakura is supporting her closely and firmly. To her surprise, the girl seems to melt into her, clutching at her with her uninjured hand. Mama, she whispers plaintively. You're here. Delirium's already set in, Kakashi notices grimly. Can her injuries be infected already? Or has she finally hit her pain threshold? Sakura hesitates, her eyes darting to her teacher, who nods for her to go along with it. It's important that she be as relaxed as possible for this. Of course I'm here, sweetheart. She must say something right because the girl visibly relaxes. Papa's going to save them, right? She beseeches, a naked trust in her gaze that makes Sakura's heart twinge. He knows there? Sakura swallows and agrees with the lie. Of course. Your papa always saves the day, right? Yeah, the girl agrees. With a shove, Kakashi sets the girl's shoulder back into its socket. Her eyes roll back and she goes limp, head settling into the crook of Sakura's neck. She fainted. Yes, she did, Kakashi says, placing his hand on the girl's head and concentrating. And it's probably better she doesn't wake up for a while. It's not going to be fun for her while I fix the hand. He has nothing close to Rin's medical talents, but she showed him enough that he can check for internal bleeding. Luckily, and against all odds really, there doesn't seem to be any sort of swelling or internal injury in her head that he can sense. The girl suffered a considerable blow, but nothing she won't recover from once she wakes up. Kakashi closes his right eye, relying only on the Sharingan. Given the delicate bones in the hand and fingers, it would be best to see the most detail possible. There might also be some fracturing of her radius and ulna, if the bruising there is anything to go by, but all the breaks appear to be clean. Luckier and luckier, he thinks, taking up a kunai. He needs to open the skin to reset the bones. There's nothing around here, Sasuke says from Kakashi's left as he and Naruto return. We check within the immediate area, but there's not even signs of a struggle. We might need to search a little higher up, Kakashi replies, thinking of the cliffs nearby. It's the likeliest explanation for how she got here, but even if she did come from that height, she must have been thrown with considerable force. Something which, once again, begs the question of her survival. What are you doing? Naruto demands, craning over Kakashi's shoulder to stare as the Jonin makes an incision in the skin on the back of the girl's hand. Oh, gross. Oh, man, I'm going to hurl. Go over there, idiot. Sakura barks, shoving him away with one hand. Stop it, both of you. I need to concentrate. Kakashi snaps. Naruto, go find me something we can use as a splint. A thick chunk of bark will be fine, big enough to support her forearm. Yeah, okay. Face tinged green, Naruto darts away. Even Sasuke hangs back a bit, looking discomfited. Sakura is the only one to lean close, peering over the unconscious girl's head to watch Kakashi's movements like a hawk. He busies himself with gently moving skin and muscle out of the way so that he has the best angle to fix the bone. As he works, he occasionally sends bursts of chakra to the site of the incision, fighting back any infection or impurities. Sepsis is not something he, or this girl, are going to want to deal with. Are you sure you didn't see anyone else? Sakura asks Sasuke, while Kakashi continues to work. She said she was with someone, or a few people. They were hurt, poisoned even, and she mentioned her sensei. She might be on another Genin squad then, Sasuke suggests. I wish he had said who's Kakashi mumbles. Tsunade didn't mention another team out here, and neither did the Hyuga squad. We're lucky she told us what she did, Sakura points out. She didn't have a lot of energy left for details. Sasuke's eye twitches in an almost wince of sympathy as he watches Kakashi put the bones back in. This girl must have an amazing tolerance for pain. Not just pain, healing, too, Kakashi muses, frowning at something his chakra probing has discovered. The girl's body appears to be helping him excise bacteria. The regenerative properties aren't in the same league as someone like Naruto or Tsunade, but at the same time, they are there. He's never heard of a genin with the ability to facilitate self-healing like this, not unless they possess a Kekkei Genkai or trained with medical ninjutsu. And on that note, he would really like to know who her teacher is. Of course, we're not going to find out any of that until she wakes up, he knows. Which, if she has a head injury, might never happen. When Sarada wakes up the second time, the pain in her right side is still substantial, but not quite as bewildering as before. It's enough to keep her from checking for Genjutsu again, at any rate. Although the sight of her much younger parents and the two Kage gathered around her is not quite the shock it was before, she still can't quite comprehend it. Her mother is coltish and pale, her eyes too large for her face, and her forehead more pronounced than Sarada is used to. Good to know it's something I can grow into. Her eyes continue to rove over the pink-haired girl. The rather ample brow is also completely devoid of the rhombus shaped by a Kago. Beside her, Sarada's father's face is twisted into a sulking scowl she's never seen him wear. She has a very clear view of it too, because not only does his hair not obscure it, he has two normal eyes. They're as black as hers, and show no sign of the amethyst Rinnegan. Uncle Kakashi looks the same, at least adjusting his mask over his left eye. Oh, right, he has a Sharingan right now. That's kind of weird. And Lord Seventh. Naruto, she reminds herself, is still clad head to toe in orange, but for some reason, he looks more goofy than dignified. It's probably the absence of the Hokage cloak. There really is no other explanation for what's going on. Somehow, impossibly, she appears to have traveled in time. Did hitting the ground, that hard, do something? Sarada remembers her brief conversation with Konohamaru. My Sharingan was activated, and the whole area is covered with that weird chakra signature. Did I somehow punch through dimensions? Even as she entertains the ridiculous idea, she is 95% sure that's not what happened. But it doesn't change the fact that she's experiencing the trappings of a world that isn't completely her own. Okay, what do I do now? Aside from the huge problem that she's injured, her rescuers are all watching her with wary curiosity. Sarada recognizes each expression perfectly and knows that means questions are headed her way. Questions I don't have time for, because my team, she gasps, snapping into a sitting position. Oh, not a good move on her part. Her body reminds her. Careful, her mother tells her, slipping an arm around her back to steady her. Sarada shudders, the raw skin on her back stinging when it meets Sakura's hand. Take it slow. Sarada grits her teeth and glances down at her right side, noticing that her arm has been set and splinted. A thick chunk of tree bark supports the entire forearm, her swollen hand and fingers curving naturally around the edge. The whole thing has been bound roughly with bandages, but it's done well, not tight enough to cut off circulation, if the stabbing pain is any indication. They have a sling on her as well, although Sarada blinks in surprise. It's been improvised. It's made of the familiar dark rose fabric of her mother's tunic dress. Sarada peers at the other girl and realizes the outfit has been sacrificed from the waist down. Abruptly, her view of her mother is obscured by Kakashi, who crouches in front of her face. Can you tell me who you are? Sarada has never heard a more loaded question, and her first instinct is to react with a note of hysteria. Oh yeah, hi. I'm Sarada. Sarada Uchiha. I'm a genin out on a mission that was supposed to be a cat rescue, but instead ended up with me traveling in time. See that pink-haired girl over there, and the guy who kind of looks like he smells something gross? They're my parents. Nita? She swallows, ignoring her parched mouth. Sarada. Okay, I'm Kakashi. Nice to meet you, he says, his eye crinkling up like he's smiling beneath the mask. The expression doesn't match his careful tone, though, and she recognizes his way of trying to put her at ease. Do you know what date is? That's not exactly the most pressing issue at the moment, is it? I'm a bit more concerned with the fact I think I've traveled in time, which shouldn't be possible. I mean, forget the weirdness of it, but scientifically speaking, oh, right. You want an actual answer. W Wednesday? This is apparently a satisfactory answer. How many fingers am I holding up? Of all the stupid. Oh, He's checking for brain damage, not time travel. Right? I can do this. 3. Where are we right now? F Forest. Near Konoha. And who's Hokage? Sarada opens her mouth to answer and freezes. Because right now, the utter impossibility of her situation fades from her mind and is replaced with the exact ramification of what voicing it might cause. There's no concrete evidence that she herself has traveled back in time or whether her loved ones have moved forward. Either way, she can't mention Lord Seventh. That will confuse them, or worse, make them think she's a spy or insane. Mama told her a few stories about growing up under the rule of both Lord Third and Lady Fifth, so it could be either of them right now. Sarada has a 50-50 shot at this, and hopes that if she gets it wrong, Lord Sixth, Kakashi, will think she just hit her head really hard. Lady Tsunade, HM. Kakashi studies her for a further moment and nods. Well, you're a little slow, but there doesn't seem to be a concussion, which is amazing considering your other injuries. Oh good, I was right, she thinks relaxing a bit. Then she frowns. Hey, I'm not slow. This is me working under pressure, and I'm doing a pretty good job, thanks very much. Especially considering I was just… At which point, reality hits her again. I have to rescue my teammates, she announces, trying to push herself to her feet. I need to. You need to stay still, Mom. No. Sakura implores her, holding her down. You're injured and running around will make it worse. The pink-haired girl's strength is nothing like it will be one day, but Sarada is weak enough right now that it does the job. But you don't understand. They might be dying, and I have to find out. You aren't strong enough to do anything right now. Sasuke cuts her off, tone flat, except to answer our questions. Sasuke's right, Kakashi agrees. You need to tell us what happened to you and your team. We're in a better position than you are to do anything about it. I don't have time to. Hey, you heard Kakashi-sensei, Naruto interrupts. You're not going anywhere anytime soon. So, spill the beans and we'll do something about it. It'll be faster if you tell us what we want to know. Believe it? Start at the beginning, Sakura encourages. Sarada gapes at the familiar faces around her, all of whom show no signs of budging on the issue. She knows each of those expressions intimately and understands that arguing is going to waste precious time. She stretches her mind, trying to find the most logical explanation that hints of truth. Sarada knows from experience that Kakashi easily sees through lies, so coming up with anything other than the truth, which isn't the whole truth, will be difficult. The Hokage sent me and my team out here. She begins completely honest. Kakashi and his team exchange looks, and Sarada feels a pit form in her stomach. She's already said something wrong. Granny only talked about one team, though Naruto mentions, screwing up his face in confusion. And none of the Hyuga mentioned anyone else investigating the bubble. Sakura adds hesitantly. Our mission had nothing to do with any bubble, Sarada says carefully. We were sent out here to investigate a bunch of ghost sightings. Ghosts? Sasuke repeats, something like an incredulous sneer in his voice. Sarada frowns because her father never sounds like that. Yeah, people were reporting these apparitions they couldn't explain. So, the Hokage sent us out to see what it was. We thought it was just teenagers playing pranks or another cat, but… She trails off, closing her eyes as she relives the events of her day. It's all so confusing. It came out of nowhere, and there was no reason for it. What? Naruto questions. We were just exploring. There was a shed, but it wasn't actually a shed, and he came out of nowhere. This pale, creepy, I've been calling him a ghost. He just showed up and attacked. He got my sensei right away. Your sensei must not be that good. Sasuke scoffs. Sarada glares at her father. No, it's Sasuke. He's not my father yet. She's used to him treating others dismissively, perhaps even with exasperation, but he's never so callous. And never with her. You don't know what you're talking about. She cries. The guy who attacked was using this. He could teleport. We thought it was a variation of the fourth Hokage's Hiration. Kakashi's eyes widen at this, while Sakura gasps and says, I've read about that. What the heck does that mean? Naruto demands. He doesn't seem as impressed or interested at the mention of his father's technique being used by a potential enemy, which is weird. Boruto was at least a little upset about it. He was able to move faster than the blink of an eye, Sakura explains. Oh, exactly. And despite how fast he was, my sensei pushed my teammate out of the path of a kunai that was aimed at his head, Sarada says. She doesn't bother disguising the challenge in her tone, directed at Sasuke. He took a poisoned kunai to the back so that he didn't lose one of his students. Sasuke has the decency not to say anything to that. At least this younger version of him still understands the importance of protecting one's comrades. Who is your sensei? Kakashi asks. Sarada's heart constricts because she can't talk about Konohamaru any more than she can talk about Naruto. This is it. They will realize something's up. Tobi-sensei, she says, hedging her bets and hoping that being vague makes them less likely to question her. Konohamaru's father only just retired from taking on genin squads, but she's not sure when he started. He's a descendant of the third Hokage, so he's an elite ninja. There. That was the truth. Please don't ask me anything else. The gods appear to be on her side because Kakashi mutters something that sounds like Sarada and looks thoughtful. The name means nothing to her, but she nods anyway. What happened after that? Naruto asks. I don't know. We couldn't check. There was no time. And this ghost man, he was strange. He kept talking, saying he didn't want to kill us. But he'd strike out in ways which would have been fatal if we didn't dodge. It felt kind of like he was arguing with someone invisible or himself. She adds as almost an afterthought. Anyway, that was before he got a good look at my other teammate. And then he just snapped, and it got 10 times worse. Why did the sight of your teammate upset him? I honestly have no idea. After that, it was like we were fighting a bunch of him at once, but they weren't clones. It was just him because he's so fast. What you say is impossible, Kakashi tells her. No one has ever matched the speed of Lord Fourth. And since his death, no one has come close to mastering his technique either. Well, this guy could do it, Sarada insists grimly. He didn't even need anything to mark his place, which is what happened to me. He teleported me into midair and dropped me, then disappeared before he could fall with me. Speaking of that, how did you survive? Aside from luck, I channeled all of my remaining chakra into my fist, Sarada explains, barely resisting the urge to hold it up in demonstration. The appendage twinges even at the thought. I figured if I hit the ground with it just before the rest of my body did, the force would cause an air pocket to break up the ground. So, it wouldn't be a soft landing, but you wouldn't be a pancake either, Sakura realizes. Exactly. That's sort of what Granny Tsunade can do, Naruto points out, then grins at Sarada. That's kind of awesome. Sarada can't help the flood of warmth to her cheeks. He might barely be older than her right now, but compliments from Lord Seventh always make her feel giddy. I didn't know Lady Tsunade had taken on an apprentice, Sakura mentions softly, an awkward tremble in her voice. Other than Lady Shizen, of course. Sarada frowns a little, unsure what her mother is upset about, but no one else seems to notice. Naruto looks a bit amazed, and even though Sasuke is scowling, she recognizes the appraising way his eyes flick over her. Like he's assessing an opponent, she realizes with equal parts thrill and apprehension. Kakashi looks thoughtful. You must have excellent chakra control. Obviously, it didn't do any good, as you're not dead. I'd say you're wrong there. I meant for my team, 2 of them are injured, and even if Boruto got away, I bet my sensei is still up there. This time she points, albeit with her uninjured hand, to the top of the cliff. Your team is probably dead after this long, Sasuke points out. Sakura protests, Sasuke. Sarada hasn't had such a strong urge to punch her father since the day she first met him investigating the Shin Uchiha clones. She's never known him to be excessively tactful, but with her, he's always tried to soften his words. They're not, she insists, glaring at him and only barely managing to keep her Sharingan in check. If anyone sees her activate the Kekkei Jinkai, her vague story falls apart. Especially considering in this time, the Uchiha don't exist outside of her father and wait, that's not true at this moment, is it? If she's really traveled in time, then Itachi Uchiha is still alive out there. Sarada's anger is temporarily muted in favor of speculation. Her father has told her stories, vague ones, but in them, he speaks of his brother like he's a hero. Sarada always wished she could meet him, and maybe this isn't time for a family reunion. I have to save Konohamaru sensei, or all of them. If Boruto didn't manage to get himself and Mitsuki away. Afraid we can't be sure, Kakashi is saying, his visible eye grim. This exceeds the parameters of a typical genin mission, if his talents are as you described. It's not too far-fetched to assume, considering he tried to kill you, that he killed the others as well. No, Sarada insists. The only reason he did that, I think, is because I was a threat to him. Sasuke snorts in disbelief. Punching him soon. Very definitely punching him soon. And he's probably not as strong as he usually is, so I'd get him too. Inwardly seething, Sarada has to force herself to ignore him. I have abilities, she hedges. And when Kakashi looks like he wants to hear more, she adds, when I'm not crippled, I mean. And I was distracting him from getting to the others, so he got rid of me. This ghost might have gotten rid of the others too, though. Sakura speaks up quietly. Maybe not, dropping them to their deaths, but there's other ways to make a body disappear. A skilled shinobi. Then we have to look. Sarada shouts, temper flaring. Again, she forces herself to be calm and the Sharingan to remain hidden. In a more controlled manner, she continues. Crazy as that ghost man was, once my sensei and teammate were down, he didn't show any interest in finishing them off. In fact, he said something about questioning them. They're alive. They must be. And if you're not going to help me, leave me alone so I can go find them myself. No need for that. I'll help you, Naruto promises. Naruto. Sakura protests. What? We need to help her find her team. It's the right thing to do. And even if they are dead, it's our responsibility to find their bodies and make sure no one learns any secrets from Konoha. Sasuke adds, bored. Kakashi sighs. It's in our best interest to check this out, he concludes. And time is of the essence, not only for your friends, but for our mission as well. He nods to himself. Right. Sasuke, Naruto, and I will head up there and look around. Meanwhile, you and Sakura stay here. When he spots the mutinous look in her eyes, he adds, just to scope things out. We'll need you to show us anything up there that can help us find your teammates. But for now, you have to rest. You're very weak right now, and we're not risking bringing you up there until we're sure it's safe. Sarada grudgingly nods. Kakashi appears surprised by her acquiescence, but he oughtn't be. Sarada trusts his advice implicitly, and he might not be the 6th Hokage right now, but he is still a Jonin and probably knows best. For now, better than her emotionally constipated, idiot father at any rate.